time-traveling stuff's too dangerous. Better I devote myself to studying the other great mystery of the universe. Women. He's not wrong.
on the mark.
Poor my brain just can't wrap itself around.
But hey, we love him. What are we without him, right?
Hello, everybody. I am Robert, your host for this show, and I think we have the whole crew here.
Yeah.
Captain Chaos, you might want to avoid manure.
Maneuver? No, what I'm gonna make sure is that I don't go over 88. That way, I don't teleport somewhere else.
Like to jail for speeding.
Probably.
So
I'm Ray down in Australia, or well, I'm Doc Brown for today's show.
And Biff, do you want to introduce yourself in the car there?
Me, I'm gonna be trying to mess around like my characters depict the whole show all throughout. I am Captain Chaos. Blake for today.
Nice.
Should I talk more like yeah, I'm Blake?
And if you are watching this on YouTube, you've probably seen a new face in here, and you probably hear a new voice if you're listening to the pod. We have Paul from 5 Port Studios as a guest for this episode. Hello, Paul. How you doing?
Hey, thank you so much for having me. My name is Paul, and I do have a YouTube channel called 5 Port Studios. Little background on that quick. Give myself a plug. Channel really ends up being me sharing things that are more readily available to us normal people. A lot of channels out there end up talking about things that are just a little out of reach to the normal person due to expense or availability, or it's not even released to the public. So why? Because I want to use this thing or get that so much that just doesn't happen. So I like to share things that are more, like the minute differences between new and vintage vacuum tubes in a headphone amp, or, making sure that something like that is in abundance of availability online or in local stores or something like that. And, just kind of helps people understand that new things are not out of reach all the time. And then also I like to go through and review and explain modern yet obscure networking gear that helps with odd networking problems. So I really like to present a possible solution for them as well. So that's really what it's all about. 5 Port Studios at YouTube, and that is where you will find me.
Awesome.
Hey Paul, do you know
knows
an anti-chaos
I am
filter?
a fan. If you're a DIY person and you're like me that likes to go and find videos that educate you to learn new technologies and things that you find your interest in, this is one of those channels that you will have the time of your life. So everybody go and check them out and hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, and so since you already know the drill, we are a long format podcast. Pause us. We'll be here. We'll be waiting for you. Just pause us, go into YouTube, find the channel, watch a couple of videos, and come back to us. We'll be waiting for you.
I might be in the future when you come back, but that's fine. I'll be here.
By the way, Paul, you just got another subscriber. Hi.
Well, thank you so much.
Nice. Yeah, I honestly really like the videos. And apparently Gio loves them as well. Let me know what you think, Ray, when you watch it. But really cool videos. I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm just a little bit busy just now, so I'll watch later. Speaking of being busy, what have people been watching?
Shame on you. I'm driving and recording a podcast, man. And trying not to go to the future. No. Let me say that on my right character voice. They're trying not to go to the future and messed up with Marty my chicken.
Okay.
That would be the first one, right? That's from the first one specifically when you're mowing down pine trees. That's the deal.
That is cool as a fly screen on a battleship. That's submarine, you idiot!
Nice.
And
Apparently,
listeners, don't do
Tom.
this at home.
Oh, my God.
Oh, in the
Apparently,
kitchen now.
it's Tom Wilson, right? That is Biff. It's fantastic that he went out of his way to make those jokes just dumb in the Biffest way possible. So yeah, so it's like
Of course,
he gets the right. It's tree, you idiot. It's
Nice.
leaf, you idiot.
Hello, butthead.
Think, McFly, think.
So, Ray, I think I see a question floating around.
I already asked it, but you missed it. What have we been watching besides Back to the Future Part 2, that is?
I go first.
Let me guess, Star Trek. Okay, next.
Star Trek, my cool wife is Star Trek. Oh, and we're watching Doctor Who too.
Well,
Deep Space Nine.
aside from Deep
I
Space
have the
Nine,
best wife of the world.
aside from Deep Space Nine, we're watching Upload. And I don't know if you guys have watched that show, but oh my God, it is so amazing. I love it. And if you're watching the show for the first time, Upload is basically about this future where you're able to upload into a digital heaven before you die. So you can continue living inside this game. It's not really a game. It's kind of like, your family pays for, where you'll stay. And usually when birthday time comes around, they go to a chapel where there's going to be a TV. And it's kind of like a gateway where you could see into your loved one and the loved one can see into the chapel. And, people can eat and drink and celebrate with the loved one. They're already departed, but they're still alive inside this virtual realm. So the concept is really, really cool, and I'm really enjoying in season 2. And again, it's going to be a slight spoiler here, but they figure out how to download. So the main character downloaded back into reality for season 2. So yeah, I'm enjoying the show. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I strongly recommend it.
No, but that really sounds like that. So you're saying second season is like Futurama, where they download into robots, and then you can have like a Lucy Lou bot, but it can be your own.
Well, it's a lot more. He downloaded into a human clone body. It's nothing robotic about it, except for some maybe
Kind of like an altered carbon sleeve.
kind of, yeah. I don't want to spoil the big thing, but apparently it's not a good thing. The only person that have done it prior to the main character, his head exploded. So they keep that thing going.
I call that a fail.
Yeah. So like every episode, you're expecting him to like blow up. So yeah, it gets you on the edge of your.
Every episode, I expect Captain Chaos to blow up, but he hasn't done it yet.
He's in the car. I don't know yet.
It's not.
Don't
too
go
Don't worry, it won't
Don't go
happen.
over
I'm one of the best
88.
drivers you ever know.
Don't go over 88 Chaos, or you might travel through time to jail.
Almost.
Oh God.
Well, Robert knows since he's a Floridian too. This is a turnpike. I'm actually the slowest right now on the highway.
Yeah, I see the cows passing you and giving you the finger in the background.
I'm behind a bus. Literally. I'm behind a bus.
Oh, nice. Okay, who wants to go next?
Well, besides what we're talking today about, they added, so if everybody likes Netflix, they added Prometheus, which Ray adores. It's
Hey,
like,
I think maybe
it's a movie
I,
about the origins of Alien with the most intelligent people you ever known. And I was watching Prometheus before yesterday.
Oh boy,
It's a good movie, man.
Ray wants to speak.
Prometheus should have the subtext "dumb people in space." The amount of stupid
I would
things they
disagree
do,
with that.
even the Roadrunner-esque running directly away from the rolling spaceship. It's like
I would disagree with that.
Hey Ray, why won't you? Let's cover it, man.
sure, I'll bag the hell out of it. I mean, I forgot that it was on my do not like list. I should put it in trailer.
I was gonna say.
Go ahead, add it to the list.
We went and saw it at the cinema. You know, my role playing group. We all went to see it, and we were all just walked out going, "Holy crap!" If that was a role playing game, we would probably have just quit. Like like that game's over.
Did you all guys came out of the movie after the movie with like a red forehead for face palming yourself all over the movie?
Mm. Actually, we went back to a friend's place and he ran Prometheus for us as a role-playing game straight afterwards, and we did a better job than they did.
Guys.
I guess that Ray was the one that lost his head over like the android.
No.
Okay, who else want to go?
Oh, what a cute little alien! Let's pat him.
Yeah, I think Ray really loves this movie.
It's a shame that
Let's
they
map
didn't
the
go back
entire
to
place
for the mother of aliens.
Let's map the entire place with little drones. That's a good idea. Yeah, well done. And then ignore the map we made and get lost. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Wow. Paul, hopefully it's not Prometheus, but do you?
No. No, honestly, lately, so I did another watch through of Cowboy Bebop, and honestly,
Nice.
it's just fantastic how I enjoyed it the first watch through, and then the second one I was able to just really enjoy everything because I wasn't learning names and I wasn't learning anything about what was going to go on. I kind of knew who the players were, what I'm looking out for, and it is fantastic. I watched it on Blu-ray, just a full binge the other day, so super
Nice.
happy. You know, and the movie and all of that. So it is such a good time. Oh, the music is so fantastic. Like that is a wonderful soundtrack, and any of the compilations that have been put together either from the soundtrack itself or anything that is like those selections of music, that just makes such a great playlist. So
Yoko Kanno, man, one of the best music composers that I have come across, man. Yoko Kanno.
Yeah.
Love her, man.
So good.
She's amazing.
Is that the anime in the Netflix or the anime?
Just the anime, not the live action. Just anime and the movie.
It's pure perfection. Oh my god!
It is.
If you like Cowboy Bebop, may I recommend something we've already covered on the show, and that is Space Truckers.
Space Truckers.
Oh yeah.
I will make myself.
Don't spoil, guys. Don't spoil. We'll just find out what he thought after he watches.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
Oh, please get back to Discord and let us know after you finish. We want to know.
Are we on the edges of like High School of the Dead type thing? Are we on?
I love that one too.
You know,
High School of the Dead. I love it.
yeah, that one is good.
After we watch High School of the Dead, after we watch it more than 5 times.
So the show is fantastic, but also the manga. I don't know the proper pronunciation.
Either
But I have the full color versions of that,
Oh,
so it's
nice.
just fantastic. It's painted and just colored in so well.
Nice.
Just everything is just lifted. Just going from a black and white to the full color. But
Nice. And I guess we have our math scientist here. What have you been?
You have your mad scientist here. This is correct.
What have you been doing, Ray?
Mad enough for you?
There you go.
It's my one and only ever cosplay, which was Doc Brown. So I'm in my element this week.
Nice. So for all of you who are not watching this show on YouTube, this is one of the reasons why you want to go and subscribe and ring the bell, because we are showing a cosplay picture, our very own mad scientist, that you are not going to be able to watch on the pod, and it's worth a subscription.
You're the dog, Ray. You're the dog.
Marty! We're gonna go back to the future. Why, Doc? What's wrong? Something bad happened to us? Oh, no, you're fine. It's your kids, Marty. We gotta do something about your kids. Maybe we should have used that quote.
Yeah, man. Well, we already did it, so that's good. Okay, so before we move on to the next segment, do you want to add anything, Ray? You haven't watched Ahsoka yet?
No, it's still sitting there. God.
Babylon 5.
I don't know where all my time
I think
goes.
that
Oh, yeah, I
Ray's
do.
waiting
Anime.
for you to watch Babylon 5 before he does that.
Babylon 5.
Yeah. I'm going to watch Babylon 5 one of these days.
I think I'm gonna finish Babylon. I'm gonna do Babylon 5 before we're over, I think.
Hey, someone is trying to tell me something, because I don't know if you guys remember from our last episode, we made from Good Pot's 100 top sci-fi and fiction podcasts, we made number 1 in fiction and science fiction, and number 2 is a podcast about Babylon 5. So someone
and it says not a Star Trek podcast. Just to be really clear.
Yeah. So someone is
With
trying
your
to
wife.
And there you go. I was expecting that. There is a hashtag. It's a hashtag. Make Robert watch Babylon 5. Awesome. So
you need to watch it before they reboot it.
I don't know what. Maybe I would like to reboot better. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, you gotta experience the original before you go to the reboot. That's all I can say.
There you go. So I found the best of both worlds. I'm gonna watch Babylon 5 for Robert, but I'm gonna watch the reboot just to torture Ray too.
Yeah.
And everybody suffers.
Because that is the mission in life for our very own Captain Chaos.
Of course, man. Gotta fulfill my role.
Okay, so I guess
he does have another mission in life.
Oh yes. Oh my God! How can we forget about that? You want to tell the audience, Captain Chaos? What is this hashtag?
The 10K has tattoos. So basically, I love tattoos. Everybody does. They're cool. And what we're gonna do is once we reach the 10K, we actually gotta do a poll, and you guys get to pick what I'm gonna tattoo on my butt cheek. Sci-fi related. Sci-fi related.
So
And if
Maybe
they can't
somewhere else, so
decide,
I can probably show it because I am not an exhibitionist.
what you don't go for those futuristic cut off jeans with the cleared bottoms to show off your ass?
No, and I'm a hairy butt, bro. I'm not gonna be shaving it. It gets itchy like that. You shaving and sitting down on it? Oh, hell no.
I think that is my cue to go to the next segment.
TMI.
I don't know about that, because now I'm sitting there thinking, what would I suggest? And honestly, is it either Iron Man 2 or 3 where Tony ends up getting the help from the TV, the van operator, and he has that Tony Stark tattoo, but it's like not Tony Stark at all. Remember the one I'm talking about? So yeah, like he's asking the guy for help because he needs access to his antenna or something like that. And then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, I'm such a big fan."
I
And
like
he
that.
like lifts up his shirt, and it's this just really awful uh version of a Tony Stark tattoo or his face or something like that. I vote for that.
I like it. I do identify with him. He's flamboyant as hell. So I do identify with him.
Nice.
It's been a while since I've seen that movie. I had to sit there and think about like, where is this in the movie?
Okay, so we are going to go for our next segment. We are Science Fiction Redneck.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are
Jesse, sudden but never. Pike Night.
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
I'm not sure if you guys are hearing me, because I am going to the future. But you know the drill, guys. This is Sci-Fi hashtag. Is that place where you can all find a variety of people that share the love for one common thing that we all love, which is sci-fi. And the good thing about it is that hashtags are so universal that you can use it in any, if not all, social medias that you can think of. So go in and anything that you want to share or conversations that you want to start, just accompanied by a hashtag that says this is sci-fi. And I want to take the opportunity to remember everybody that we started the This is Sci-Fi Network. Uh, so go and check out This is Sci-Fi Network. .net, Robert, or .com?
.net.
There you
This
go, .net. I just don't want to give him wrong information. And join in, man. It doesn't cost anything. You just have to be a creator and love sci-fi. And everybody's welcome. It's a community effort, just like we've done with This is Sci-Fi hashtag. So we'll wait you there, and we'll build up that together, just like we've done with our community on Sci-Fi with This is Sci-Fi.
awesome. So yeah, if you're a creator of any kind, I want to specify. So movies, books, games, podcasts, it doesn't matter. If it's a sci-fi creator, you're welcome not only to the this is sci-fi.net, this is sci-fi network, but also using the hashtag this is sci-fi to post your work. And if you're a fan, this is the discovery factor. So you want to follow and post your passion. We all have a passion. It's slightly, for all of us, is kind of unruly because our passions are great. We all love anything that has to do with sci-fi, but if you are a fan of Star Trek, if you're a fan of Star Wars, if you're a fan of Babylon 5, if you're a fan of V, you can, follow and post. Who knows? Maybe I might start watching Babylon 5 because of your passion post.
Yes, please. Anybody who loves Babylon 5, poke Robert a whole lot and make him watch it.
Oh, nice. Okay. And if you want to be part, don't forget, we have a hotline.
Oh, I want to do the hotline. I want to
Go ahead.
call 1-305-563-6334. That's 1-305-563-6334. Our AI receptionist is waiting for your call.
Yeah, the AI overlords will be waiting. It'll be nice.
If you call after 2 a.m., I might pick up.
Yes. So, and all your hate mail can go there. So,
Hey, I've seen the creator. We've got to be nice to the AIs.
No, and let everybody know if you go, if you want to leave a message that you want us to play on the show, or if you want to leave a message to any of the hosts, or suggestions and questions, anything you like, go for it. We'll be waiting. And if you want to just keep a discussion going, join us in Discord too.
Definitely. Okay. So, are we ready for the next segment? Are we?
Yeah.
Well, the connection is good now, so we should take advantage of that.
Okay. Here we go.
Shout out.
And for these episode shout outs, first I want to give a special shout out to Ely Zimmerman, our favorite article writer. He's in sci-fi-history.net, right? Robert?
Correct. Yeah.
So go and check it out. I love reading him, everything that he writes. It's super interesting. He loves delving into like hard science fiction and all those theories that you might find yourself thinking about out of nowhere. So I enjoy very much everything that he brings up whenever he writes something new.
He's
Talking
also
about
very good
that-
at making you feel old because
Yeah.
he posts on this day 30 years ago. This movie that kind of feels like it came out last week came out, and you go, "Holy shit, I'm old."
Yep,
This does that to me all the time.
It's true, and it's true because sometimes there's things that we enjoy, and we don't have somebody that really shared that passion. But when you're reading something that goes so deep into those things, you feel like that conversation continues. That's that sweet spot. When you're reading something you like, that kind of talks to you, and that's how it feels when I'm reading him and I catch an article that talks about specific topics that I never had the conversation because there was no time or uh, it didn't happen. So it's fun. It's fun. I really like it. Next, I want to actually give a special shout out to the podcast that wouldn't die. They're awesome. We
They Wouldn't
collaborated several times, and I hope we do it soon again. Pause right now and go and find them on Twitter. T podcast that wouldn't die. TW die. And click on their bio, and you can find them on your favorite platform to listen to them or watch them on YouTube. Go and check them out and give them a listen. They're awesome. And last but not least, this guy owes me a drink because he's got me hammered on last Christmas party podcast that we did, bro. So, but he's an awesome podcast. I love that guy. So go and check him out. The Scuttlebutt podcast. He's awesome too. He's in all media platforms too, so you can listen or watch him wherever you like most. Go and check them out. And those are our shout outs for this episode.
And I feel like I need to explain for the new listeners what happened.
Yeah.
We had a Christmas episode. You could actually go down to our back catalog and download it. And he was supposed to be, unfortunately he had some scheduling issues, so he couldn't show up, which was really sad because we really wanted him on our show. But he's the one that came up with the idea that every time we say sci-fi, we all take a drink.
That's harsh.
So that's pretty much what we did on that episode. So yeah, you might want to go ahead and it's actually on YouTube right now too, if you want to go ahead and watch it, or you can.
But hey, Ro, if you're listening to this right now or watching it, no regrets, buddy.
Watching the Back to the Future trilogy and having a drink every time Doc Joe goes, Marty. So my friend goes, Marty, and you got to take a drink. It's like, holy crap, you're just
Oh God,
drunk off your face.
that will take a
3
toll on
minutes
your
in.
kidneys.
That's what it is. 3 minutes in, and all of a sudden it's just like, why is everybody asleep? Oh, they're not asleep.
They're hammered.
They're dead.
Oh, nice.
Probably shouldn't have started with the absinthe. Oh, well.
Okay, so I think I'm going to go and move on to the next segment.
The Alita Army News.
Oh, geez, every time you do that. Oh, dear. Well, we have somebody on the panel here who has not seen the movie, has not read the manga. So we're going to have to educate this lad. Paul, to bring you up to speed, in 2019, my favorite movie was released. It's called Alita Battle Angel. These guys also love it to bits, and we're all members of the Alita Army. which is a fandom wanting sequels, which Disney are still holding out on us for. And, we're doing our absolute darndest to get everybody on board and, rattle the chains and get Disney to produce some sequels. So the filmmakers, which is James Cameron and Robert Rodriguez, are working on convincing Disney to put out the money. But James Cameron is probably the only person who's made them some money recently, so they really should listen to him. I don't know why they're not, but anyway. So on YouTube, there's the Alita Army channel, which is the fandom channel. I'm one of the hosts of a live stream, which happens every week, Saturday afternoon / evening, US Eastern. There's also another one called the Alita live stream, which happens on Friday night on Creek Indians channel, which also has Alita Army in the name, so you can find that pretty easily. But basically, it's all stuff to do with the Alita movie, the Alita manga, which has been going for over 30 years, so there's lots of it, lots to read. It is post-apocalyptic dystopian cyberpunk, focused around a character named Alita in the West and Gali in the East. And if you know your Japanese, they don't have a distinction between R's and L's, so it could really be Gary for all we know. Battle Angel Gary. Hey! Makes a whole lot of sense. And she was named after Doc Ido's cat, so it's a little bit of trivia for you. The cat may have been called Gary. But anyway, so we're trying to get sequels. We have a live stream every week. We're up to episode 190. So we've had plenty of episodes over the past 4 years. And this week's topic was rare ships in the Alita multiverse. So, of course, we're not actually talking about sea or space. We're talking about relationships. So it was a very lively discussion because there's a couple of members of the army who, a French lass and a Polish lass, who very animated about their shipping. And we actually had to call off the stream after 3 hours because they wouldn't stop. And it's going to be continued again on the Alita live stream this coming Friday night. So part 2 will be held on a different stream, on a different channel, because we had to stop because they just couldn't hold it in. It just kept going. So it was a very lively discussion. It won't mean anything to you, of course, because you don't know any of the characters, but there were some interesting ones there. I'll send you some links, Paul, so you can start reading the manga online, and we'll get you caught up. But you should watch the movie because it's amazing dystopian post-apocalyptic cyberpunk, which should be right up your alley by the sounds of things.
Very nice. Yeah, I really want to jump into that.
Oh, well, I've read it like 14 times. But, I've been a fan since the 90s, so I've had plenty of time to read it. But, yeah, I'm known as the Alita Army Pope because people ask me questions about the manga and I tell them all this esoteric stuff that nobody else can remember. And they're like, how do you... you're the Pope, that's why you can remember that stuff. Yeah, okay. I didn't come up with that name. That wasn't me. It was given to me. Anyway, yes. But yeah, so this podcast has done a couple of episodes on Alita. The first one was the movie, and the second one, which I was involved in, was the 2-episode OVA from the 90s. So we covered both of them.
Nice. Okay, so
we're here.
Yeah,
wherever here is,
and
whenever here is.
and I like to think that Alita is the reason why we have Ray as a host for Science Fiction Remnant. Would I be wrong in saying this?
Nope, you wouldn't. I had to come on and correct you. You needed correcting.
Nice.
No, these guys told me backroom chatter after coming onto their show that they actually put mistakes in what they say to rile people up and get them to come and interact with them. So I was like, what? You did this deliberately? Now you're stuck with me.
Pretty much. Pretty much. Okay, so I guess this is the part where we lead into the main topic of discussion. I always ask, are we ready? But we never are. So
you don't have to be ready to discuss things. We're proof positive of that.
So I think, is there a plot somewhere?
Yeah, I got a plot. It's all good. I'm plot-tacular. Where's my plot hiding? It's hiding over here. Okay, so just for a little bit of context, Back to the Future Part 2 was released on November 22nd, 1989, 108 minutes long, budget of $40 million, box office of $332.5 million, so it did quite well for itself. It was considered not as good as the original, although, you know, it covered some of the ground of the original, but from a different perspective. So some people may not have liked that so much, but I thought it was very smart, personally. I think all of these movies are very smart. And even now I'm spotting things and going, oh, I didn't notice that before. So there's all sorts of interesting things. Like, did you know that one of the two kids at the video game in the Cafe 80s was Elijah Wood, who became well known in Lord of the Rings somewhat later. So
get to see his feet.
No, they didn't show a shot of his feet, so you couldn't see the hair. But anyway. But yeah, so the plot. On October 26, 1985, or should I say on one of the October 26th, 1985, Dr. Emmett Doc Brown arrives unexpectedly in the DeLorean time machine at Marty's house. He persuades Marty and his girlfriend, Jennifer Parker, to travel to the future with him to help their future children, with Biff Tannen witnessing their departure. They arrive on October 21st, 2015, where Doc incapacitates Jennifer electronically, leaving her asleep in an alley, explaining that she should not have too much knowledge of future events. He has Marty pose as his son and lookalike Marty Jr. to refuse an offer to participate in a robbery with Biff's grandson, Griff, thus saving Marty Jr. from prison. Marty switches places with Marty Jr. and refuses Griff's offer, but Griff goads Marty into a fight, calling him a chicken, and subsequently a hoverboard chase ensues. Griff and his gang are arrested, saving Marty's future children. Before rejoining Doc, Marty purchases an almanac containing the results of the major sporting events from 1950 to 2000. Doc discovers it and warns Marty about profiting from time travel. Before Doc can adequately dispose of it, they are interrupted by the police, who have found Jennifer incapacitated in the alleyway and are taking her to her 2015 home. They pursue, as does the elderly Biff, who has overheard their conversation and retrieved the discarded almanac. Jennifer wakes up in her 2015 home and hides from the McFly family. She overhears that her future self's life with Marty is not what she expected due to his involvement in an automobile accident. She witnesses Marty being goaded by his co-worker, Douglas Needles, into a shady business deal, resulting in Marty's firing. Jennifer tries to escape the house, but faints after encountering her 2015 self. While Marty and Doc attend to her, Biff steals the time machine and gives the almanac to his younger self, then returns to 2015. Marty, Doc, and the unconscious Jennifer return to 1985, unaware of Biff's actions. They leave Jennifer on her front porch. The 1985 they return to has been changed dramatically, with Biff now one of the country's wealthiest and most corrupt men. He has turned Hill Valley into a chaotic dystopia, secretly killing Marty's father, George, in 1973 and forcing Marty's mother, Lorraine, to marry him. Doc has also been committed to a mental hospital. Doc deduces that old Biff took the time machine to give his younger self the almanac, and Marty learns that the alternate 1985 Biff that he received it on November 12, 1955. Biff tries to kill Marty, but Marty flees and travels to 1955 with Doc. Marty secretly follows the 1955 Biff and watches him receive the almanac from his 2015 self. This is getting a little confusing. Marty then follows him through to the high school dance and carefully avoids interrupting the events of his previous visit. After several fruitless attempts, Marty finally gets the almanac, leaving Biff to crash into yet another manure truck. Or maybe it's the same manure truck, but at a different time. Guy's got shit luck.
Point intended.
Yes. Marty burns the almanac, nullifying the changes to the timeline that it has caused as Doc hovers above him in the time machine. Before Marty can join him, the DeLorean is struck by lightning and disappears. A Western Union courier arrives immediately after and delivers a letter to Marty. It is from Doc, who tells him that the lightning strike transported him 70 years into the past to 1885. Marty races back into town to find the 1955 Doc, who just helped Marty return to 1985. Shocked by Marty's sudden reappearance, Doc faints, and I can't really blame him. I mean, he works so hard to get rid of the guy. It's like a bad penny. You just can't get rid of it.
Wow. Yes.
I mean, you got to look at the way this thing's been written and go, God damn, that's smart.
Maybe that's a hint there. That's a hint there, but there are some fixed events in time, point in time, right? Something
Ask Doctor Who. Yeah, you'll find out that's the case.
Yeah. You see, that's why you need to watch Doctor Who.
I have, but not like you.
Wibbly
I'm
wobbly
not
timey
excessive. I'm
wimey
not
stuff.
excessive.
Well, I could have been excessive if I watched the older ones. So that's still on my list.
I watched the older ones back in the 70s. Don't remember much, but
There you go. That's a
saw them.
confession. I haven't done it, but I will.
Oh, nice. Okay, so let's open up the discussion with our very own first question. This is a question that we usually ask in every episode, and this is, how old were you when you watched this film for the first time, and what was your first impression? And should I go first? Who wants to go first? I can go first.
I'll go first
Yeah, go
since my connection seems to be working.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
It's ephemeral, you know. But I watched this movie time after it came out, so I will venture to say I was like teenager, 13, 14. But it was a fun watch. I love all the movies of Back to the Future, every single one. And I mean, it's one of those movies that it has more than one. It has sequels, and it works out perfectly. You know, it does the job. You know, and it gives you that sense of wonder too, with all the theories that they explore throughout the movie. Because it's like our Robert likes to say, sci-fi. It's a thought experiment. You know, that's a great thing about it, and they do it wonderfully. You know.
Yeah.
I think it's a movie that everybody that likes sci-fi should watch if they haven't. And if you haven't, let me know under what rock you leave.
Nice. Okay, so who wants to go next? Or should I go next?
I'll go.
Let Paul.
So I must have been 8 or something like that. So probably 92-ish, 93-ish, somewhere in there. And honestly, I have actually loved the trilogy for just so long. Just all three of them. Just, I don't know what it is. I think it's just a peek into the future, you know. And especially this one, the hoverboard always got me. That was like the first thing, but the flying car was like the first time you see the DeLorean just lift into the sky in the last one. It just leaves you wanting more, and then it just picks up from that point. And when it comes down to it, you're just watching everything happen, and it's the, will it be like this? Doesn't matter if it is or not. Once we get to that point in time where they are trying to represent it, it doesn't matter if things actually exist or not. It was just such an amazing thought process around it. We have hovering skateboards. Why not? We have flying cars. Why not? We have holograms that literally try to eat you. Why not? And
Shark
it
still looks
was
fake.
right. Shark still looks fake. Um, but well, exactly, and it's just it. But at that point, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it looks fake because that's kind of the draw to it too. Because it's like right now, if it was ever made like that in life, people would be like, "That sucks. There's too many sharp angles. There's too many this and this." But when it comes to a movie like that, they just did it and had it look how it looked, and having that quote right after it is just perfect. So it's not just not just how it all develops. It's just all the things that were always in there. The DeLorean time machine itself is always just fantastic, and I guess over time, every time that I've seen this, every time that I've wanted to watch the trilogy, or even, you know what, I just want to watch the third one. I just want to watch the second one, whatever. Because I've seen them so many times, I'm in that moment where I'm now noticing more than I did before, but also I've started really heckling it. And to me, when I do that to a movie, it means it's either awful, so there's no way that I can make it through it without heckling it.
Prometheus awful.
From what I hear, or if it's just so good or something that I like so much that I can sit there and be like, did you see that? And I'll watch this with my wife, and it'll be us heckling it together because we've seen it so many times. Um, just things like that. So you kind of start making fun of certain points of it that now to you either, okay, that makes sense as to why that happened, or it doesn't make sense at all. So that's really how it's grown for me. And they released it on 4K Blu-ray, which was fantastic because had to get it. Had to make sure I had it in my collection of physical media. And I think that a lot of the just points in how they made this movie just make it really special. So I just loved it for forever.
Nice.
It was a lot of rambling to say, I really like this movie.
That's quite all right.
We're never succinct on this show. Don't worry about it.
Ray, you want to go first, or you want me to go next?
I can go.
Okay.
So I saw all three of the trilogy at the cinema, so I was kind of blessed in that way. And when you were totally right, Paul, at the end of the first one, you're like, more. I want more. And when they announced that it was coming to the cinema, I was like, yeah. So bouncing up and down by the time of waiting in line to go into the cinema because it was sold out, and just couldn't sit still for weeks beforehand. So excited to see more ridiculous time travel shenanigans. And there is a lot in this movie. It takes a lot of following. If it's not something, I mean, you can enjoy it as a silly time travel romp, but if you're a real sci-fi aficionado like we are, and certainly Captain Overthinker over there, there's a lot to think about. Like the whole, the fact that for big chunks of near the end of the movie, they're following over the same events as the first movie, and trying not to interrupt them, trying not to ruin the time. Because, of course, if you interrupt the events, then it changes your past and might end up evaporating you. Like, because once your past has changed, then what the events that got to you to where you are now are different, and you may end up somewhere else. And you might just go and not be there anymore. And it's like, well, crap. There's a paradox. We're in big trouble. The galaxy might explode if we're lucky, just the galaxy. But yeah. So I mean, there's lots to think about in this movie. It's quite witty and well thought out, beyond the obvious physics problems, which I tend to rail about quite succinctly at the end of most time travel things in the science behind science fiction. I mean, it hangs together quite well, and you find out a whole lot more about all the characters, especially the bad guys. Like, they're not one-dimensional bad guys. They've got, you know, wants and dreams and things that they want to do. And yeah, I mean, it's also a movie that does a lot of future predictions, and I would say they were about 50% right or thereabouts. I've got some good ones to bring up in Science Behind Science Fiction as well, unless we hit upon them here. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and got to the end of this one and went, I want more. And then they said, you'll get more next year. And I'm like, yes, I can't wait. So I was happy. I would have been happier if I could have watched them back to back straight away, but I had to wait for the second one to come. They filmed the second and third one back to back, and then released them staggered so that they wouldn't interrupt each other's box office. But yeah, I mean, I just like you, Paul, I enjoyed all of them and still do to this day. In fact, I finished watching this at 1 a.m. and it was so hard not to watch the third one and get no sleep. But I forced myself to go to bed.
And of course, you're the only one that went to the theaters to watch it. Show off.
Okay, so that is actually great segue for me, because I like to count myself as one of the lucky ones that was able to watch it on the theaters as well. I was 19 at the time, so you know, youngling.
Paul,
I
by
was
the
20.
way, sorry to interject, Robert. Paul, by the way, you'll notice these two like to rub on my face that I am not an 80s kid. And they make me wish I was. Every damn time.
Look, the sci-fi was great. Everything else kind of not so sure.
I was, you know, this is a very iconic film. This is a very, you know, nostalgic film for those of us who grew up with the film. And I like to count our very own Captain Chaos in it too, because I like to think that you've seen it a while back. So when a movie is put so well together like this, it's just it just gives you, you know, if you watch it a while ago, it just gives you this nostalgic feeling. And it's kind of like when you watch it, you're coming home.
That take me back feeling.
Oh yeah, like especially watching it like last night. Watched the first one last night again with my wife, and we're sitting there just kind of thinking about everything that's going on. But it still again made me think of the first times, plural, that I watched it, you know, enjoying it for the first time too. So it's not just that first one or second one or third one. It really is it can take you back to the point where it's like, wow, I know why I like this movie.
Yes. And I love movies that can do that. It's not, unfortunately, it has to be a film that you had to watch a while back, you know, for nostalgic feelings. You have to allow time for that. But considering that, or that being said, not all the films have that quality. that this film has, where it just takes you back. I mean, the score, the whole thing is just, it screams 80s. Regardless of which of the three you watch, and my first impression, I did watch this in '89 at the theaters, and it was just amazing to me. I mean, I am a young 19-year-old. I do love sci-fi. I'm not too well versed into the science yet, but my mind, has always been the same overthinking mind that you.
He's a smooth talker and likes to listen to Phil Collins.
And watching this film on the theaters, bigger than life, with the score is just louder than anything, and it was such an experience. It was so amazing to me to experience, considering that most of the stuff that I saw on the film, like we eventually will talk into it, the 50% of the film that has become a reality. It's really, really interesting to think back at the time that I watched this for the first time, because some of the stuff that they were talking about is stuff that we all wanted, especially like back in '89, where we don't have the kind of stuff that they were showing here. Example, flying cars. We have flying cars now. It's not like they are in the film, right? Because in the film they have become common use. Right now, I think if you want one, is we're talking about $1 million or something like that. But it's that factor when you see this stuff and you're like, wow, is this how the future is going to be? Especially for a 19-year-old sci-fi fan with no experience whatsoever. It's just amazing. And then as you go and rewatch this through and you see this coming to life in real life, it's like, wow, and we'll eventually talk about how predictive this film was. But it's just one of those films where it left me in awe the very first time that I watched. And I don't know if it's because it's a sign of the decade. I mean, '89, we didn't even have internet, right? Not yet.
Oh.
I mean, what do you use? Of course.
I was born in '89.
Well, there you go. So it was.
Yeah, the world didn't even have a Captain Chaos yet.
It was pre-chaos. So it
Yeah.
was. That's why the '80s were the way they were, right? No.
Yeah.
I was born in '89. I was the golden brunch that closed that golden era. There you go. There you go.
There's pre-chaos and after chaos. There you go. Okay, so there was one thing that you said, Ray, that I want to explore on. And I think everybody here, except for Paul, knows that this was coming. My vision of time travel is slightly skew than the common vision, or what I like to call the common vision of time travel. When you were talking about, how they cannot let themselves interfere with the previous, their previous self on the film, otherwise they will never go back. So eventually the events that led them to be back to the same
Grandfather's paradox
didn't happen, right? So in essence, it's causing a paradox. I wanted to say so bad, I don't believe in paradoxes. And if you have heard the show before, you know where I'm coming with this. So I just like to explore that concept. And I'll start for all the new audience out there. Why I say that I don't believe in paradoxes is the fact that I strongly believe that when you travel in time, and again, this is not a reality, this is just a thought experiment. When you travel in time, you're technically not traveling in time, you're traveling between multiverses.
or dimensions.
So, and the reason why I say this, and let me explain a little, I'll get back, is we are all time travelers. You, me, everybody here is a time traveler. We travel. What's the expression, Ray?
We travel forward in time at 1 second per second.
1 second per second. So time travel is forward because we're linear creatures. We're in a third dimensional being. It is completely different in theory to fourth dimensional beings because they exist outside that realm, right? So how I think about this concept is, and I explained this in previous episodes, when you wake up, you have decisions to make, right? So do I put the yellow jacket or the blue jacket? When I get out of the house, do I go straight to work or do I stop and get a coffee? Those are decisions every day we have multiple decisions that we got
I
to do.
didn't think there was a choice. You have to go and get a coffee or your brain's going to explode.
But hey, like one of my favorite movies, I'm gonna quote right now, and I got to actually enjoy quoting it to Ray yesterday. Choice is an illusion.
So when you make a choice, and let me go ahead and paint an example here, scenario to explain my concept. So I get out of work and I'm late. I gotta go to the office. The traffic is horrendous. I have a choice. Do I go to Starbucks and get a coffee, or do I just go straight to work and get a coffee at the office? Okay, that is a decision. Very simple, right? It's not usually that simple. Usually decisions are nested, but I'm just putting this as an example to explain my concept. So I decide to go straight to the office because I'm late and I'm going to have a coffee at the office, right? There's another universe where I just go to Starbucks and decide to get to the office late. So that right there, I split my being into two, where one goes to this dimension and this other one, not the dimension, I'm sorry. This one goes to this multiverse, while the other one goes to the other multiverse. And it splits. So now we have two.
You forgot the third option where you can't make a decision, so you pull over and have a nap by the side of the road.
Exactly. That's the reason why I said they're nested. There's so many possibilities and computations that, like I said, multiverses are infinite. So
Yes.
there's what I feel that happens, and I think we kind of covered something similar to that in our episode for I forgot this anime now.
Everything all at once, everywhere.
No,
Timescape?
Timescape. So when you travel in time,
Squishy banana.
you know when they say if you go back and you killed your grandfather, you never existed?
Yeah.
I don't believe that, because you travel to another multiverse, you killed your grandfather, you never existed on that universe, but you still exist on the other. So your lineage,
But there is a paradox right there, because how is that the same guy that turned out to be your grandfather if you went to another universe?
It's not. It's your grandfather in the other multiverse.
And about the decision making, I have a picture for you on that. Is I believe, and this is what I think. I don't believe it fully, but I kind of see along the lines why choice might be an illusion. Is because the preconceived notions of who you are and what you are prone to do. Like if you don't like being late to work and you would not risk it for anything, that idea that you will go to Starbucks, it's already disqualified the moment that you come late. You would not risk it.
Now remember our conversation.
Unless you're an spontaneous person, which people like to think they are, but I think that's just not it.
Remember when I say we are the experience of our surroundings and our past experience of our surroundings?
Yep.
If anything changes in our path, we become a completely different person than what we are today. It doesn't matter how small that is.
Yep.
That's another factor of that. That
The
other
ripple effect.
Exactly. The other person that goes into Starbucks might have a complete different, maybe the butterfly effect, for example. It might have had something very insignificant happen that just snowballed into what that person became. So now you have those two separate, you know what I mean? But that's just an example. I'm talking about decisions you make on a daily basis, because you have to make decisions. It's part of life, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Or you could be a pushover.
So the reason why I'm saying this is there's a specific scene that made me think about this concept on this film, and it's actually when Doc um, uh, took Jennifer
Put
with
it to
them
sleep.
and left them to sleep on the side, and then went back to fix the issue.
Yep.
That there's a universe where Jennifer is left stranded. There's a universe where Marty left stranded. And I don't know, I'm kind of dying to hear what your thoughts are, and I'm just try to explain it briefly, as brief as I can, to get your opinions on the concept. So I don't know if I should start with Ray, because I don't know that we have the same thought.
Well, my thought is that the moment you time travel, you're creating a new universe, because you're taking yourself out of one time stream and inserting yourself somewhere else. So the moment you arrive there, it breaks off and becomes a new universe, a new reality, because you've. I mean, you sort of they sort of talk about macro events, but there's micro events as well that you're interrupting. I mean, even to the point of in the first movie, when he ends up in the when he takes off in the car and ends up in the barn, and then they think he's a spaceman, and he gets back in the car and takes off, and he runs over one of the two pine trees, and then later on you see it's Lone Pine Mall, not Twin Pines Mall. And that's a different reality. That's not the same reality that he came from, because he changed it. Even so, just appearing before you interact with anybody is going to be a change. It has to be, because you didn't exist there before. So the moment you time travel, you've changed reality. It's now a different reality. So I can see that your theory works perfectly well, Robert, that you're now interacting on a different reality stream than the one you came from, the moment you travel forward or backwards.
Paul, I don't know if you ever thought about this. And again, I'm Mr. Overthinker, so I wouldn't surprise if
This
you
is what we
haven't.
do here, Paul. You've been warned.
Have you ever thought about it? And if so, what is your thought on that concept? Oh, it seems that you're muted.
He's very quiet for a guest.
Okay. Well, we could hold on until technical difficulties. You see, chaos has rubbed off on Paul.
I'm actually, yeah. It's contagious, man. I'm actually almost arriving. Dun, 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 dun.
No.
But I think that I agree with Ray and with you on your theory too. It's like this is the kind of thing that, because uh, there's not a solid theory that has been practically proven. It's just theoretical and
Mhm.
thought out. But there's no wrong answer, really, when you think about it. Uh, I believe that at the end of the day, if you leave your place in a dimension, because time is just one more dimension, we can all agree on that. Uh, you will leave an empty space that you need to go back to, I will guess. So even when you come back, even if you're a different person, I mean, you're a different person every second of your life, if you think about it.
Yeah.
But there will always be that empty slot that if you don't return to, Robert's gonna be missing, and it's gonna affect everybody connected to your life, if you think about it.
Mhm.
And then in that universe that you didn't return to, there's gonna be milk cartons with your name on it.
Yeah. I had to agree. I do have to agree. It makes you wonder about those missing people. You
They're
know.
all time travelers. That's
Dun,
sticky
dun,
ends.
dun, 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 dun. I think I'm here.
Okay, so
Woo! I am.
Oh, he's frozen in time.
I prefer so much more the studio, man.
oh, awesome! Just so you guys
Anyways,
know,
I am
Content Chaos
going.
is
I'm
a right.
going to reconnect. About minutes. Be back
Awesome.
to the present.
Okay, so not sure if you fixed your issue, Paul.
I think I have.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, apparently. Whatever. Anyway, so yes, I have thought about this. It does make a lot of sense that there's no possible way to insert yourself into that very moment of time where you don't actually impact anything at all. You know, it's literally impossible to find a stitch point in time to try to inject a difference over top of what's already going to happen. So I do believe that there is no way to get back to the point where you came the first time or anything like that, because at that point it is altered. And then you coming back again alters it again. So it's not just the Doc Brown putting a line on the chalkboard and, you know, alternate 1955 and alternate 1985 and things like that. There's no way it would be split and split and split. You know, because we have old Biff coming back and he altered, you know, tons of things. But it's not just that point. Like, if you're already in an alternate universe, how do you actually traverse any of those other decision-making alternate realities, you know? So there's really no way to get back. And I do like the fact that they simplified that so it doesn't like make your brain explode.
Yeah.
And it's specifically just, hey, we need to do this on November 5th, 1955. We need to do this and this in this way, and there's no other way about it. We have to get the book. We have to do these things. We have to make sure that you don't trip over the power plug while they're trying to play the music at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. And all of a sudden everything stops and the kiss doesn't happen and then he doesn't exist and all this other stuff. So there's just way too much going on that in life, in their lives in general, to even find a point where you could just inject yourself and not change anything else. Now everything is just swimming, right?
Yes. I always joke around when I said that Marty never went home, and that's the conclusion that I get in any of these three films. He never went home. He went to an alternative home. It's completely outside his. So he's a stranger in the reality that he exists in, because he can never get back to the original reality where he came from.
Well, and would he want to, though? Because, I mean, at the end of the first one, you end up having the fact that his family's lives are better.
Yes.
They took it from being tormented by Biff for forever, from high school all the way through, their lives. They've been tormented by this guy who just feasts on others, Yes. And then you turn around and they finally have control and finally have been better ever since the punch, and then would you actually want to go back? No. Like, he can be a visitor all he wants, but would you really want to go back? And then as he moves forward and he goes back to the Back to the Future, Back to the Past, all the iterations, he needs to make sure he doesn't screw up the good life in which he helped create for his family. So you don't want to undo any of that. You don't want to mess with any of the Biff stuff other than getting that book back. And you really want to make sure that the punch happens, that the kiss happens, that the dance goes on, and just every single part of it still is okay, to the point where you have to change it. All of that.
Oh look! If this was my story, I'd try to fix one thing and screw up 10 others. That's just how it would go for me. For sure.
Well, no, you bring a really good point, because, and this is something that I actually talked about in our episode Arrival. If you guys have not listened to that episode, I suggest you go through our back catalog. But basically, that's something that always bugs me, right? When it comes to time travel, we are third-dimensional beings, and if you want to know about this, I welcome everybody to go into YouTube and find Carl Sagan explanation on third-dimensional, fourth-dimensional beings. Great video. Older, but a really good one, because he really explains it well. So we are third-dimensional beings, and it's for third-dimensional beings is very, very hard to separate time and space, right? If you read any kind of
well, it's the time-space continuum. They're inseparable.
Exactly. So if you have read some scientific articles, you'll know that it's well known that time and space are one thing. They're just, there's one thing. And for us, on our third dimensional mind as humans that we are, we can't separate both because we're linear. We have a time where we are born and a time when we died and everything in between. We can't really go back to the time that we're born. So if you are a fourth dimensional being, you're inside that time and space is one thing. So the best way that I can explain is you live your entire life in a loop, which if you think about it, sometimes that from our point of view might seem sad, because just to paint a scenario here, let's say you go on a business trip and you kiss your wife goodbye, right? As soon as you walk out the door, you don't have time to miss her because you already know what happens when you're back. Another example, there's a new flavor of coffee. On your way to the store to buy it and try it for the first time, you already know what it's going to taste like because your time is circular. You can experience your death and you can experience your birth all at the same time. That's what happens with fourth dimensional beings. And again,
really, really good coffee will do that too. It just makes you experience all the things.
Apparently, shrooms can be in that category as well.
Coffee, shrooms, all right.
Same difference. So we have our very own Captain Chaos on the studio, finally. So I kind of lost track now with Captain Chaos back, where I was going with this.
You threw some chaos in there and ruined your train of thought. Your train of thought had colored smoke and it went off the edge of the thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, wrong movie. That's the next one.
So where was I going with this?
To the future.
Oh yeah,
We'd really like to know. We'd really like to know.
I remember. I know exactly where I was going with this. So as third-dimensional beings, I agree with your statement, Ray, when you said you'll fix one thing and mess up 10. Because since we don't have that sight that a fourth dimensional being has, we have no idea what effects needs to change in order to make things good. So we might change something that in hindsight might look like, oh, this is a perfect best scenario. I have the best result This is how my life is going to end. But we don't know what's going to happen after that because we don't have that oversight that a fourth dimensional being has. This is what happened in the movie Arrival, where they knew how everything will turn out within their timeline, because they die and they're born, so they have a complete view of what happens within their timeline because their timeline is looped. So if we are a fourth dimensional being, yeah, we have the confidence to know exactly what needs to change in order to make a better future when it comes to time travel. But I strongly believe that third dimensional being doesn't have the oversight to know what needs to change. Only what it's immediate, that it makes sense that it would change, but you don't know if that change, that could be a horrible change, would make you a billionaire later. Does that make sense? It just, when you mentioned that, Ray, it just hit me that
triggered one of those long thoughts of yours.
I'm glad that somehow you got to hit Robert.
No. Look, yeah. Having a top-down view and being able to see the whole thing at once would really help for finessing it, certainly. But yeah, that's not how we three-dimensional beings work, unfortunately. So we're not going to have that overarching vision. So we got to like pluck at the strings and see which ones unravel and which ones we can tie back up and hope that it doesn't go to shit later on.
On top of that, humans don't tend to be logical beings.
yeah.
So that also kind of hinders a lot the end result of the so-called laws of causality, which nobody's free from.
Well, I can paint a perfect example. Let's say, for example, someone goes back and stops World War II from happening.
That could be atrocious, even though World War II was atrocious.
It is a horrible. World War II is horrible. And
don't go further. I was watching a documentary where they explain how horrible it was. Yet, because of all the horrible things that happened in the Holocaust, there have been so many millions of lives saved because it worked as a medical research. As horrible as it is, it's not ethical, but it actually helped out to what medicine being so advanced today.
If World War II didn't happen, we wouldn't have had the space race. We wouldn't have got to the moon. None of that would have happened.
So, that's an example of what I was talking about, where as humans, we see this horrible thing and, you don't want a horrible thing to happen. And we change it without knowing the consequences of changing that bad thing. Like many people say, what if I go back and kill Hitler? Right. Same concept. It was horrible, right? All the stuff was atrocious.
I was just a frustrated painter.
Hey, Robert, do you want me to fuck you up for several hours?
Please, do it.
How do you know that the attempts on Hitler's life that have been recorded weren't time travelers?
To go into the kind of the what came out of the war, right? At what point do you get rid of Hitler and it's the correct point in time where all of the bad things haven't happened, but it pushes everybody to be more advancing in their science or technology? Is it right at the beginning? Get rid of everything and just get rid of them right there? Does it have to be pushed along where things have the bubbling up of bad outcomes? Does that, if that were to have stopped right then, would that then push us forward to the space race, to the fact that you're thinking about technological advancements for size or something like that? Would we have cell phones right now? Because if miniaturization and the fact that we needed to get, let's say, to space, everything had to be really sized down. Is that a drive that would have happened right there? Or did it have to be at the point where everything was, which is awful because one would think if you were to have stopped it at the beginning, hopefully humans would have pushed themselves to research and find the technology for and move forward without the horrendous push that it was? Would we have found it ourselves? And if the answer is no, that's also awful because you don't want things like that occurring in life, in everybody's lives, that all of a sudden you have a at what point does it hinder or help? And both are awful.
Yeah,
Well,
it is.
you
It is.
you you've opened a can of worms because one man's hinder is another man's help, or one person's hinder is another person's help. Bad things happen to one person and good things happen to another. You take the bad things away from one person and the good things don't happen to the other person. There's a whole lot of linkages there that can continue on. Goebbels is well known as being a complete and utter crazy bastard, right? If Hitler was taken out of the picture, Goebbels might have been the leader and might have caused more atrocities, might have got to the atom bomb first and then blown up England. We just don't know what could have happened if you take Hitler out of the picture. We think, oh, we'll take the big nasty guy out and then it'll all get better. Not necessarily, because better the devil you know sometimes, because it could have been a worse devil. I mean, Hitler lost the war for Germany because he had stage 3 syphilis and he'd gone nuts. And when you've got somebody who's not thinking straight running a war, they tend to lose it. But if Hitler was out of the picture and somebody who didn't have stage 3 syphilis and was thinking, well, let's not try and attack Russia in the middle of winter because it's stupid, and we'll wait until summer, then, you know, they might have won and that would be even worse. So, you know, you can't necessarily say that any particular change that you make because somebody was bad is not going to make things worse.
I think Paul's question was a really good question. And I think one is particularly difficult to answer because we are third dimensional beings.
Hey, I have no ethics. I try to be logical. I might be able to answer it. The end result of that question is that at the end of the day, the risks that imposes to venture into that possibility are high. The bad overweights the comfort that we have on the actual present. You know, just the idea that it could be worse and it was so horrible already. You wouldn't want to go back and try to fix it and end up being actually more horrible. And on top of that, it has been historically proven too that we humans always are fighting each other, and we tend to actually try to fight off and destroy whatever we cannot control or we do not know of. And on top of, and just to complete that thought, we always thrive on adversity for some reason. Whenever we find a common enemy, it unites us. And everywhere that you see an utopia that looks and works well, the end goal is collective awareness altogether. Whenever you see a civilization reaching out to collective awareness altogether, everybody is on the same boat. There's not that big dispute when it comes to political world domination. Like everybody's all together. There's no a country anymore. You know that goal there. It's when we are all together, and for some reason, war or some major catastrophical event doesn't necessarily have to be. Mother Nature also is a trickster, and does his bad job sometimes, but it's just part of the process. But those things brings us together for some reason. You know, we forget about our differences, and we forget that, or we actually get to know on a subconscious level that we're all the same, that we're all one whole thing instead of separating itself because of our sense of individuality, even though we think that that poses in the animal chain at the top. It actually most of the time is a hindrance too, because it separates us from what we are. We are one whole. Humanity is one whole. Even though me, Captain Chaos, I am an individual. I understand that I am part of a big picture, and that everything that I do or don't affects that. Most people don't. Most people don't even stop to think about it. Most people are in pilot automatic. You know. Um, but I mean, and I think that that's why I love practicing self-awareness because of that, because it brings me back into that center, and it helps me also kind of equalize everything around me. So it's not like I'm doing things and disrupting everything on my way without even making any kind of conscious thought about it.
Yeah, I have a slight different answer than yours, but it seems like they aligned. Um, I feel that, and the reason why I said it was a difficult question to answer is because we don't have that foresight. We don't know exactly at what point. But one thing is certain, and I'm going to echo your comment there, Chaos, when humanity needs adversity to move forward. And
Hmm.
it is proven because most of the scientific revolutions that had happened they have always happened after a war.
Yeah.
So if we are able to stop and not cause a disaster, then scientific advancements will not go forward.
Hmm.
Really sad to think about, but the proof is in history.
Hmm.
When you actually look at all the worst events in history, they're usually followed by leaps and bounds in the civilization.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, we were talking about Holocaust and World War II, but don't go further. When the atomic bomb was invented, Bikini Bottom tragedy, all those peoples had to suffer that and be evacuated from their lands. Many suffer mutations and problems because of the radiation. But thanks to that, we have now atomic reactors that helps us power big civilizations. Oh God, it had to happen at some point, right?
yes, and that was very own Captain Chaos. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Bring in the
If,
chaos.
if you end up going kind of that route where you you can see full civilizations being like impacted, it just kind of goes back to at what point does what's happening in the world, what's happening with a civilization, with a group of people, what has to happen to them to move forward? Because was there a reason for like the iPhone? Was it something where it's just like, hey, we don't have anything that does this? Was that created out of war or discourse or something like that? And
Don't go further. I mean, look at the iPhone example that you bring. Steve Jobs, super bright mind, but look at his personal life. It was a disaster, and he basically marginalized him from people that he loved, his best friends. So, like, he did great things for the public, but it cost him some other
yeah,
things that I think at an individual level. I love my family. I'm a family person, Robert too. Uh, and I imagine you too. And Ray, like when we try to, like, most people don't even bother or like traveling on their mind and say, like, let me sit on their shoes and see how would I feel. Nobody even does that experiment. I sometimes I just stuck in my mind doing that because I like to see myself in other people's shoes so I can try to gain understanding from the first person viewer of what it will be. And then I think to myself, would I do it? What would Gio do? You know, and that helps you sit outside that narrow view of just myself. And it
yeah.
disconnected me. Did it?
there,
Oh no. Okay.
there,
Well,
there is definitely something to be said about just kind of looking at family or friends, and it's the how can I make their life better?
Yeah.
You know
And
what
find the
can I?
balance. And find the balance. Because
Yeah,
you don't want to lose yourself trying to make somebody else life better at the like it's difficult, you know, like there's no wrong or right answer. uh that's a paradox. This is what we're talking about here. It's a paradox, and you don't believe what
Exactly.
paradox is, Robert?
Yeah, I guess you do have a point there. Um, yeah, this is the kind of stuff that I think every time I watch this film. It's just it's I don't know if you experience the same thing, Paul, or this is a surprise to you. Um, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, because that's just me. I mean, you can hear Chaos and Ray talk about how I overthink everything, but I have to have them keep me in check because I can go really deep into the uh, into the the rabbit hole of things here that happen. But there's so much things happening in this film, and this is basically what Ray was talking about when we started the show, where you could really enjoy this film and not think about none of that stuff. But if you are a sci-fi fan, you might want to pause and analyze the things that are going on. And if you are a sci-fi and science fan, it's actually even worse. I like to think so. I'm a science fan as well. So I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts and see at what level each of you are. Um, I guess I might want to start with Captain Chaos, and then we can move on to you, Paul. If you are within the camp of sci-fi fan and science fan, and what have been your experience on thinking about the topics within the film?
So I go first.
Yeah.
Well, you know that I love science itself. I mean, I'm an odd guy. I don't watch sports, and I don't watch reality TV, which is most of the things that flood mainstream media these days. What I spend my days watching is documentaries, DIY videos, how to learn how to do things myself. I find such great power in just learning how to do something myself. And I'll tell you, like I've fixed cars doing mechanic work. I'm not a mechanic, but I watch a DIY and then I follow step by step, and everything is SOP in life, like a standard operation procedure. Even a monkey can do it if they follow it step by step. And I find such power on that. So all my time I spend it watching things that would educate me. And I think that with enough repetition, you actually can learn things instinctively. I saw a documentary. I love psychology too, and I saw a documentary that actually tells you that it's been proven statistically that if you do something for 10,000 hours, you will become an expert at it and do it intuitively. So it's not like you have to go back to the manual to do it. Like it just will come out. It will just come out because it becomes muscle memory. And so science, I adore it. And when I watch a sci-fi that plays those hypotheses, theories, and thought experiments, it's like I'm seeing fantasies mixing up with reality. If you think about it, that's how I feel, you know. And that's one of the main reasons that I love science fiction so much. And I actually are a sucker for hard science fiction because of that too. Because when you're looking at hard science fiction, then it's like you're actually wondering, is it true? Actually,
Especially when they paint it so well, you know.
yeah. I mean, like when Interstellar came out, I was in awe. Like even my favorite astrophysics and like people from the planetarian uh, from the planetarian community, and most of the people that do my favorite documentaries, like it was so thought provoking that even them join in on the you know it, right?
If you are not watching YouTube, you should for moments like this. You're probably wondering why the conversation got derailed, and you have no idea because we're not going to say a thing
No.
until you actually go to YouTube and subscribe. And
All I can say is I'm a bad man.
Bad to the bone. But yeah, man. I mean, I definitely love science as itself. I always have since little kid. When I want to look for comfort and I don't want to go hard on science, I go to my favorite guy just to listen to his voice, David Attenborough. Oh yeah. But if not, you're always gonna find me looking at something from Bill Nye, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Carl Sagan. I mean, those are my home places to go when I want to go on science and just let my mind roll off and at the same time absorb new things.
You forgot the conspiracy theories there, Caves.
Those I run by you, but I try not to go too public on them because I have a public image to protect, you know? But yeah, I'm an anarchist and a conspiracy guy. I was actually running a funny one by Ray before yesterday because I was watching World War C. I'll let you guys think of it or just come and join the Discord and ask me.
Yeah.
We
no,
should open a channel in Discord for conspiracy chaos.
Yeah,
we
totally.
should start one
I think
call.
you'll get a fair amount of.
I mean, we got to weigh the risks too, guys. I mean, we don't want to lose audience.
And there you go. If you want to follow us on our Discord and you're watching the YouTube channel, all you have to do is just scan the QR code, and that is our invite link. If you are listening on the pod, there is a link in the description.
Mhm.
So, Ray, just to bring you into the conversation, because you had to step up for a little bit there. Like, the question that I was asking is, there's obviously there's technically three. I'm just singling out to two types of people that watch this film, because you're listening to this podcast, you're obviously a sci-fi fan. So I'm ignoring completely the person who really enjoyed this film without sci-fi or science. But if you, obviously, I think I know where your answer would be. But the question was, are you in the camp of sci-fi lover or sci-fi lover and science lover, and how that influences how you overthink the topics within this film?
There's the first answer.
Mic drop. That's it. That's all we gotta say.
Yeah. I'll give a freebie to the listeners. I'm wearing a T-shirt that says "Because Science," so that should tell you everything you need to know. Being the mad scientist, being the Doc Brown of this episode, so you can probably tell that I'm in the sci-fi and science camp. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty to think about, as I alluded to earlier. Thinking about how you can watch this and dig deep into the topic and the possibilities and the ramifications. This episode is probably the biggest one for ramifications and problems with time travel, you might say. They screw the pooch quite regularly in this one, and by the time they get back to 1955, they realize what they've got to do. They've got to try not to screw things up, because they're going to create a paradox and screw themselves over. Now, depending on how you look at time travel, you might say, yes, you're going to obliterate yourselves, or no, that was in a different reality, and therefore it can't be obliterated. But the way the photos were working and the newspapers were working, I think that the paradoxes were real in this version of time travel.
Yes, they were. So I don't know, Paul, if you give you a chance to answer that question, if you overthink as well, and which camp are you watching this film?
Well, first off, I don't think science can exist without people thinking in science fiction, in terms of science fiction, because when you think about the possibilities, you already have to have an idea of, I think of things that are impossible, or I want to improve on something else that already is possible, but what I'm thinking of trying to do is impossible. What do I need to do to get it there? And science, of course, would take over and really try to make that happen. So I really don't think the what ifs, the what could be's, or anything like that, moving forward into the future can really exist without a true thinker of the unknown, what is out there, and everything that goes with it. Because then at that point, you either try to make science and reality bend to your will to try to find a way to make this occur, or it might not happen, and that's where your experimentation comes in. That's where your psychological thought process can come through. And honestly, I just don't know if I can believe that there is only one without the other. And science, yes, it could exist. The reaction and action between two elements, the concept of invention, or making things better, or even finding avenues to help people. But someone out there had to ask, what if? And if you can't ask what if, do you really have the ability to think in a science fiction-y way and make science a reality from that fiction?
Yes.
So I am very much in both camps, very much in the fact that I love this movie. I do feel that everything that came from it, any of the ideas, were thought of out of either necessity for the movie to make it be, you know what, we really need this. Great. And then somebody watched this afterwards and said, wow, can we do that? Is that even something that is possible? And all of a sudden, someone who may not have thought in a way of science fiction becoming reality saw something in the movie, experienced something, loved it to the point where that person went out and said, I'm going to make this real. I don't care what it takes. And that's just really how science fiction and science, to me, coexist anyway. So you bring this movie into it and hear of all the things that have changed in the world.
Yeah.
Would they be like that because of this movie? If this was put through a different way, if the vision was different, if is it Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis? The fact that they wrote it in a way and made sure that it told a story in a very specific way. Maybe they ended up really jarring something loose for someone. And without them making a movie like this, without them sharing their vision like they did, would it have created what, or something that, would we have that today?
Yeah. I do agree with you 100%. I strongly believe that, and this is what Captain K has alluded to, something that I always said in past episodes, is that science fiction is a thought experiment. Thought experiments are needed to kind of come up with an idea for scientific research. And I'm probably oversimplifying it, but I strongly believe that the science fiction it helps us deal with situations or technology in a way that we start the conversation of how possible is this, and because of the nature of science fiction, making it in a way that is plausible, so we can actually. I strongly believe that scientists today might have been influenced by previous, science fiction, and they grew up watching that one thing, and they became, or maybe got influenced to start a career because of that one thing, and eventually got in a position where they can research. And this is where I say where the art, this science imitates art part, because it helps facilitate the conversation. One of the things we talked about this actually in our episode 2001 Space Odyssey, which is still our top most downloaded episode, and how, this is an older movie. Most people listening to this episode were not born when 2001 Space Odyssey was released to theaters. And this is one of those most influential films in science fiction that has caused some lots of conversation. And not only that, but I mean, we see the first iPad there. We see
Lots of questions that the scientific community have actively worked throughout the ages to answer and bring forth to.
and I want to, before I get too far out, I want to hand it over to our mad scientist to explore a little bit more into the.
Okay, so what I wanted to bring up, and Paul, you brought up some very good points there that I just wanted to allude to a little bit. So the study of science is the study of reality, basically. It's the study of the world around us. So that's the basic definition of science. Science is the study of the world around us. Now, science fiction is not necessarily the best way to describe what we're talking about here. It's more like technology fiction, right? So science fiction is just like, what would the world be like in the future? It's very generic, very general. But what we tend to focus on here is technology fiction, which is what will the technology be like in the future? And that's not the hoverboards, the flying cars, the
Not entirely, because we talk about theories that are not revolving around technology, that are actually part of what reality entails. Reality, like different dimensions.
So that would be like sociology fiction or something like that.
Dimensions, different dimensions have to do with sociology. Sociology will do if you are actually putting humans into it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talk about, what sort of social structures we're going to have in the future. We went over that in Idiocracy quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different facets of the future that we talk about, but we do tend to focus on the technology because we're all technology nuts. So I'm sort of saying that science fiction is a sort of a global term, but we often focus down on different parts of it, like technology fiction or society fiction or whatever it's going to end up being. But the technology fiction tends to be a really strong contender. Like if you looked at how many times we talk about the different things, technology comes up every single time. And that's because it's cool. It's basically because it's cool. The rule of cool. You go with the cool stuff. So I just wanted to sort of bring that up, is that with all our talk of science imitating art, it's often engineering imitating art. You can study science and discover things, but it's the engineers that make them reality. It's the people that take it from theory and understanding to actuality. And we sort of skip over them a lot and say, oh yeah, somebody thought about the future and then came up with this thing. But that was the engineers, that was the electronics specialists, the people who did all the miniaturization. We can't forget all of those guys, because they did a fantastic job to actually make a physical thing in your hand that you take the shrink wrap off of and hug close to you. Like I just got myself a new phone after 6 years. So now I've joined the S23 Ultra crowd, and it is awesome. My previous phone looks like it got hit by a truck. It's finally died. So I got a new one. But the technology moves forward, not so much thanks to the scientists, but more to the engineers and the technologists who build the things. Because it's great to have an idea, but you've got to turn that idea into a reality. and you need engineers to do that. So don't ever diss the engineers, man. They're really. I'm not saying you were dissing them, but
Right.
we can't forget them.
It's and I guess and part of it is like as an engineer or as an analyst or as someone who likes chemical science or physical sciences and all of that, right? It's all still to me a lover of the sciences because it, as a general term, to me that encompasses numbers and the hardware of it. So when you have the engineer actually fitting prototypes together, when they are thinking of how does this actually go together, how does it work well together, how should it work, because you do have the scientist edge of that of this might or might not be possible. Well, here, engineer, make this possible for me. And they still are the lover of the sciences, how metals can go together, how chemicals react to each other, how thought processes, when we're talking about the psychology of moving forward and all of that, that's still a science. And when it coexists all at once, that's when actual things happen, because you do get the numbers people and the hardware hands-on people and the theoretical people as well. And when they are all working together in a symphony, that right there can make
the business
so
people
possible. And somebody has to help make the money. So the business people having a business, I would consider it, because I mean, you have the Bachelor of Science, business management, and that's the soft skills. That's the psychological portion of it. You have to be able to hire people. You have to be able to keep people in line sometimes as well. So there still is a science to the soft skills of management and everything like that. So when you turn around, you do have the business people. You have the accountants that are making sure that nobody's embezzling your money. That's numbers science. And the stuff that I have heard, on the exams like CPA exam and stuff like that here in the States, it's wild, the things you have to think about and all of the psychological screwed up things you actually have to learn about because people have tried to do it in the past. So now it makes it a rule that you have to know extra garbage almost. But it's funny because I joke and call it garbage, but it is fascinating. I'm not even gonna lie. But that's beside the point.
It's
Yeah.
curious that you bring that up because it interconnects to our talk with war, for example. Like, you see how people actually try to rig the system, and what ends up happening is that it's trial and error, because then it perfects more the system because the system updates constantly.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that adversity of somebody trying to cross the lines or go under the table are necessary continuously for it to continue to perfect itself. And I think that there's never going to be a point where it's going to be impossible to try to fool the law or the rules. It's a continuum. It's a never ending thing. It's an infinite thing, if you think about it.
It's an arms race of people trying to take advantage versus people trying to make everybody do the right thing.
Yeah.
But just to pull it back towards creating the future for a second, there's a statement which I think it's a title of a book. It's Dream, Believe, Create, Succeed. Just those 4 words, and that sort of underpins our entire civilization.
You say those words, and in my brain there was a unicorn jumping and making a rainbow with sparkling sound. Ring.
Where's that? The more you know, or whatever.
Yeah, remember those commercials? The
Just
more
watch out for the unicorn
PSAs.
poop.
So
rainbow
PSAs
unicorn
really
poop.
were, but
But basically, if you go back far enough, none of any of this that we're using right now, all the stuff that's sitting in front of me, all the stuff that's sitting in front of you, all the things you interact with every day, at one point in time behind us didn't exist. They did not exist. And how did they come into being? Somebody had to have the idea. Somebody had to test it. Somebody had to say, hey, I think we can make this happen. They dreamed and they believed that they could do it. And then it was created. And when it was marketed correctly, it was successful. And now we have all these consumer goods behind me, the ones in front of me, the lamp, the microphone, the monitors, the keyboards. All of this was created by people. Now, it wasn't like, oh, I have this idea for a keyboard and there it is fully functional. No, it's iterated. So somebody had, well, we've got to get this information to a computer somehow. How are we going to do it? Okay, well, if we there's this thing called a typewriter, and it puts letters on a piece of paper thanks to arms that swing up and push onto a strip of ink. How are we going to use that? Well, there's all these keys things there. What if we had that to talk to the computer electronically? Hey, that's not it. Make it work. And the engineers go, shit, how am I going to make this? And everything in front of you. If you want to overthink life, Robert, pick something random and think how you ended up getting it. How it came to be from nothing.
We see VR in film.
And thus, Robert started looking at his pencil, and we never saw him again.
But, dream, believe, create, succeed. People will think, oh, yeah, it's fluffy bullshit. No, it's not. It's the underpinning of our entire civilization, because these things didn't exist. Somebody had to think of it originally, and then somebody had to make it happen, and then had become useful and popular and successful financially, and then it got improved and iterated, and then they put flashing lights in it, because we all had the flashing lights a couple of years ago. And, all these, technological fads and things happen to, and then we have the stuff we have today, and it's all built on the past, and the past had an idea of what the future should be, and then the people in the past created it, and now we have the present. So, we're sitting here thinking, oh, in the future it might look like this, but that's already happened, and it's happened thousands of times.
You know what's messed up
to get to now.
You know what's messed up about that is that we're always thinking of how we're gonna continue to shape up the future, but we don't have a finish line of what we want the future to be to make a stable final goal on it. So even when in the problem with that, I see there's not a problem. It's just that, well, the paradox. I want to use that word. Robbie likes it. The paradox with that is that we're never gonna get there, because we're always gonna be looking forward. We're always more concerned with our future or our past than our present.
Well, every generation has an idea for its future, but we may not even ever see it, because we may die before that idea comes to pass. And then you have to pass it down to the next generation, and they may change it. They may have a different idea. So the fact that human beings have a somewhat short and finite lifespan means that their ideas aren't going to prevail for much longer than a generation, because the situations change, the technology changes. People will say, oh, I want it to look like this, but maybe we can't make it like that. We'll make it like this. And, everything will morph and change and move forward. But our past was somebody's future, and our future will be somebody's past.
And it's ironical that you say that, because mankind lives like they are never going to die. We live our lives and plan it out like, yeah, that's true. Like when you see the great plans for the future, that great people that have shaped our society to what it is today, everybody leaves not thinking of that end time. Like life is finite, but we don't live our lives taking that very important fact into account.
Oh, I think there are some people, some very highly functioning individuals who have a bucket list from a young age and are ticking things off, man. That's not me, though.
Yeah, but when you're talking about the exception.
I think, what you said, Ray, I think this is why science fiction is so important as a thought experiment, because I can tell you, for example, I remember from this film, the way they communicated using video. It was something that was not part of my reality when I watched this film. And I remember watching this thing and saying, well, this would be so cool if I can call someone and I can see their face. It's amazing. And I think as a thought experiment, science fiction shows you what that would be like. And obviously in a limited capacity, because you never know until you actually start creating the thing. But now we have, as a personal communication device on your phone, you can call someone and see each other's face. For work, for example, telecommuting, we have those meetings, Teams or Zoom, whatever you decide to use, where you see the entire department and you can have meetings watching each other's faces. And this is something that it's just mind-boggling to me, that the fact that I remember watching this in the theaters, and I remember realizing, wow, we don't have that now. And now fast forward to today, it's like, wow.
It's the new norm.
It's a new norm. So this is the reason why I love science fiction, because it's a thought experiment where you take a concept. It could be technology, it could be sociology, like in the instance of our episode Gattaca, that wasn't technically a technology, it was just a societal issue, and how that film was the film that was the reason why we have laws now to prevent things that happen in the film from becoming reality. If you want to know more, just go ahead and download that episode. But what I'm trying to say is, science fiction gives us an idea on the concept and shows us how it could work. And then this is 1989, right? There has been different, how many generations from there? We have that example in celluloid, in film. It's digital now, and people can see, and I think that helps civilization. I'm not talking about just films. This includes books as well. To analyze a concept, a science fiction concept, and say, okay, this is doable. How can we make it happen? Because it's convenient, and we could end up with new technologies from that thought experiment.
Oh, for sure. I mean, science fiction is in those 4 words. It's in the dream category. People are dreaming about what the future will be like and representing it on film. And sometimes they get it right, and sometimes they don't do so well. Let's do a little thought experiment of our own here for a second. I'm sorry if I'm derailing you, Robert, but
go ahead.
Let's have 2 columns: what they got right in 2015, Back to the Future, Part 2, and what they didn't. And there's one really massive thing they got wrong. Did you see anybody there staring at their phone?
Exactly. I was going to talk about that.
I could say they did get some. You could translate that to the excessive saturation on TV and media that was shown.
Oh, sure, but that's in the plus column.
They did have people looking at their phones. Marty
the
Jr.
VR thing.
Or,
the VR thing.
Yes,
they had the VR thing on the glass on the eyes.
They're sitting at the table. Yep, they're sitting at the table. And
but they didn't have everybody sitting around staring at these things and not talking to each other.
But I think that socially looking at it as a behavior, it's a technological thing that creates a social disconnect. Those glasses are the translation to people all the time now on the phones, or kids always on.
I would give you that one. Yeah, it's very similar isolation.
Let me give you my point on that one, because, and this is a conversation that I had, and I actually told you, mark my words, with the smart AI glasses from Apple. These are not the ones, or maybe the version 1 or version 2 are not going to be it. But I say, mark words, I think this would be the equivalent to that. So it's
Ready Player One coming soon, real life.
and let me explain you why.
SAO.
They are AR. So in essence, it's slightly better than being stuck to your phone on the dinner table, which this is what you see today. You have a family where they're all eating table, if they are at the table, and they're all looking at their phones, right?
Or having an Oculus Quest 2 that is giving you a scoliosis slowly.
The Apple AR allows you to see the other person's face as you are on or scrolling whatever it is that you're scrolling. I see this being used on the street when you walk around. This is what I see the future to be, and I think this that we see in this film is the equivalent.
No more creepy sneaking a picture of a chick that you like that you don't know. Now you just can look at her and zoom in and shit and snapshot, and she will never know.
Oh my God.
Be more creepy. Seriously.
Back in my day, we'll put a mirror on the shoe.
You were right here, creepy. Now, why? Why?
He's chaos. You should understand this. If he can go there, he will go there.
Things that everybody thinks, but they will not say publicly. I'm like the one that will take everybody's things and just bring it forth.
I am so glad that's not me.
And you see, Paul, this is what I all work for. That face, the indignation in Robert. It is all worth it.
Robert gets all indignant, and Ray just sits here nodding, going, yeah, I was expecting this. Yep.
Yeah.
We're there. We're at that point in the show where we've reached the zenith. It's all downhill from here.
And then when everything is all said and done in the back of everybody's heads, it's just like, this is why we're demonetized.
Hey, we're still number one though, so
time traveling.
At least we'll agree before we started the show. We're gonna do this because we love it. Nothing else. And I mean, there's one of my favorite phrases. It's like, if you play to win, you always lose. But if you play for fun, you never lose, right?
Yeah.
So you go to the casino with like $50, and it's like, that's what I'm playing with. I am okay with losing $50 or $100 or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's
I went to casino
you can't
3
play
times, and I don't go anymore. I learned my lesson.
I mean, yeah, you have to put down at least, $125 or something like that to play crap. So you could play with like $20, $50 somewhere in there, but sometimes you want to bet the odds.
Yep.
But,
yeah.
That little voice.
Yeah. But are you okay with losing that? That's the thing. If you walk out of there with nothing, are you okay with that? And you have to ask yourself that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I mean, it's just, I think that kind of connects to my way of thinking, like doing favors or like lending money. Like somebody asked me, hey, you have $20, so can I borrow $100? In my mind, if I loan it to you, I'm not expecting it for you to give it to me back. Because I'm not gonna ruin our friendship over some little money, just by charging you. Some people don't even like that, And most people, they loan you, they go and charge you. Hey, where are my $20? But when you do it like that, you're doing it open hearted, and if it comes back, I've learned that like life brings back whatever good deed you do in some other way, even if it's not through the same channel or same person that you interacted with. So that's why I do it that way. And I mean, it's just worries for you. Worrying and anxiety.
Karma's real.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it really is. Karma is so real.
I mean, if we want to look at it scientifically, it's mere causality, cause and effect.
Doc Brown up here is just like, well.
No, I'm nodding away. I'm like, yep, totally causality. He's on the money. I mean, people are affected by what you do. If you're an ass to them, they're going to move away from you. They're not going to want to help you. If you're good to them, they will feel good about you. It's basic human nature. And yeah, I mean, there'll be some that you're good to them and they'll go, sucker. But you were never going to get anything from them in the first place. No matter
Yeah.
what you do.
I mean, if Ray says that I'm on the money, I am on fire, man. But yeah, I mean, and even though if you do good to somebody and then that person tries to stain your name, usually it backfires on them because the people that they're trying to talk to, if they are aware of their surroundings and of themselves, they get to realize that when I tell you something about somebody and it's not good, I am telling you more about my person than whoever I'm talking about. You know, that I'm going out of my way to try to stain somebody's image. You know,
So
if not, they drag you into the little theater drama. And, but I mean, for people that are high functioning or that at least try to practice self awareness, that's the common effect on it. It's like if you're a person that does good and don't see the who, it always pays off, and it always will bring to you people that are aligned on that same frequency.
yeah. Now, to bring it back to Ray's comment, I just wanted to mention, and back when this film came out, I remember it was the public phones were a thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I find that interesting that back when I watched this thing, it was very natural for me that would be the future of, public phones.
Now they just used to be to exit and enter the matrix.
So
Superman would be stuffed with so few public phone booths because he'd have nowhere to change.
yeah, so
It'd be the
Random
same
comment.
It'd be the same face that he gives when he runs up and sees the half phone booth, and he's just like it's that face, just more of it.
Yep.
No, that's when he's got to step into an alley and do the spin, and then he's changed. And it's all good.
He just take off the glasses, man, and rip off the clothes.
You see, he got changed so quick. That's why his undies end up on the outside. He changed too quick.
Yep. That explains it all.
it's a physics thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's a physics thing, but ladies always said that it was a physical thing.
It always amazed me how you could be a completely different person if you just put a pair of glasses on.
So
Superman.
Oh, who is this guy?
Superman.
Where did he go? Oh, there he is.
Hey, I feel left out. I'm the only one without glasses.
Honestly, I was looking at that earlier and I'm just like, man, the glare in here is just awful. So I'm like, I'd rather not have glasses, honestly. So you're actually the lucky one here.
Working on computer. I used to have a working on computer, so it's not like a sight problem, if not a hypermetropy. So basically my eyesight just gets tired from being on computers for too long. And I get like headaches or literally not sleepy, but my eyesight just falling off. So I will have to use glasses for that. So I work in offices for like 15 years, and I have glasses too. But I prefer it now. And I mean, a lot of people even think that glasses enhances or changes their looks. I think that a person is beautiful the way they are, and glasses, even though it's a nice accessory, doesn't hinder on a person's looks.
I like how they frame my face.
I
don't know.
I like how I'm not completely blind and everything's fuzzy.
Yeah, it does help not to knock things down as you walk.
And trust me, after eye contact, I can't.
The number of times I've forgotten my glasses and I'm trying to use my phone and everything's blurry and I've said something completely wrong. It's like, and these babes for it's like crap.
Ray, are you drunk?
I swear I was not drunk. I just did not have my glasses on. I'm sorry for everything that I said. Apparently,
thanks, autocorrect.
9 a.m. I promise you, I haven't had a beer yet. So,
So the going back to what I was saying before, the plus and minus columns. So the weather service, boy, I wish, but no. Flying cars, yeah, but not really. They're not like readily publicly available.
It's not FAA regulated or anything like that.
Alpha wave generator, yes, but no. I mean, they have devices that are supposed to, but I don't know if they're legit or not. But they certainly don't go boom, and the person goes. It's a bit convenient.
Hydrators.
Hydrate. Oh God, I wish they had them.
I was
so good.
I've always wanted to know what happens when you eat the pizza without hydrating it first. I've always been interested in that.
Paul, do you like Lord of the Rings?
Oh, I will get chastised for this. It's fine.
Okay,
I will get.
Have you watched the
roasted
Fellowship at least?
Yeah.
So your answer to that is: imagine that you're eating lembas, the Elvis bread, that you just get one bite and you're fed forever. So imagine if you eat a whole pizza, man, that could be actually bad.
I think, Ray, let me know if you agree with this. I think that would be bad altogether because it's a hydrator for a reason. If I assume how this works, it takes the humidity from in order to make it smaller. So what this thing does, it brings back the humidity to make it back to normal size. The human body is what? Was it 60%?
60 odd, yeah.
That could be bad.
Well, you know, you can dehydrate things. They have dehydrators now. You can dehydrate your own fruit. You can dehydrate all sorts of things. And basically, it's just a fan that blows air past the thing and warms up a little bit and just makes the water evaporate out of it, and then you turn grapes into sultanas. But this whole thing of something this size being rehydrated and becoming this size, the atoms don't expand that much because you put a bit of water into it. It was a bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke, but really that's not how it works.
We talked about that in a previous episode. How
like the dinosaur sponge where you put it in water and it gets all big.
Yeah.
Right.
I was thinking of that.
But that's a specific thing that's designed to do that. But just a pizza. You wouldn't eat a dinosaur sponge. Come on, you just wouldn't. It's not a good idea.
Don't you eat pods now?
Only if you want to die on
people smoke pods. They don't eat it.
The laundry pods, right? Isn't that a thing? Oh, that was
okay. So if we go to the going to the McFly's house scene, thumbprints used for identification and entry. Yes, but not quite in the way it's shown in the movie. Do any of you guys have a thumbprint to get into your house?
I have one for my iPhone. For one of my iPhones.
Yeah, true enough. So do I. It gets you.
Robert does. Robert does. You do, Robert, right? Yeah, Robert has one. His house is like a techie palace, bro.
Well, that's one of 4. But yeah, in 2015, did you have that?
No.
Look, every little gadget that you see in Wish.com that you know that you're not gonna get that when you buy it, Robert has a real one in his house.
I had to come visit you one day, Robert, so I can enjoy the future.
Bro, you're gonna be like a kid in a toy store. You're gonna visit Robert.
But he'll make me watch Star Trek.
And Doctor Who with his wife.
There is about, because I have everything interconnected in my house, and at one point my wife, through a mistake, told Siri that every day at 12:10 to turn off all the lights. And Gio, you're present to that, right? So all of a sudden you're like, maybe you're in the bathroom, right? And all of a sudden all the lights come off, and you're like, whoa! Now you gotta go find it.
I think now it still happens at midnight.
Yeah, it still happens.
It still happens at midnight. Everything goes off, poof, in the whole house.
Well,
man. It doesn't matter where you are.
You
You're
might
not
think
safe.
that's a mod. You might think that's a modern thing, but I actually know of a. Well, they may be dead now because like they're the same. They were the same age as my parents, and both my parents have passed away. But this was back in the early 90s. This couple was living in Canberra in the ACT in Australia, so the Australian Capital Territory. They were a German couple, and you know how Germans can be quite, sort of everything's got to be done at a particular time. And it's got to be all timed really well, methodical. Yeah, so they were a very methodical couple. They'd actually come out here after World War II as refugees, and done well for themselves. And then they were retired, but their retiree house, we'd come over to visit them. And they asked us to stay for dinner, and we're sitting there after dinner, and the conversation went long, and at 9:30 everything went black. Just the whole house dark. And we're like, what the hell happened? And this was before you had a phone in your pocket with a torch on it. So we were staggering around in the dark. Oh yeah, we go to bed at 9:30 normally, so like all the lights just go out. And we're like, no, that's a little dangerous, isn't it? You go, no, just wait a couple of minutes for your eyes to adjust. You'll be fine. I'm like, Jesus.
For your eyes to adjust.
and this was 1991. So
Wow.
So you could just be sitting around having a conversation. Everything goes out, and they're just like, "Night over," and just get up.
We were asked to leave.
Literally. Or you could be going downstairs and wake up in the hospital if you actually wake up.
I never said it was a good idea. It's just what they like to do.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh man.
But yeah, they had a timer switch on their switchboard, and it just turned off the light circuit.
Oh my. But I think that they did get a lot of things. They did get a lot of things in this, even though I think that they purposely for Back to the Future, every time that they try to portray the future, they purposely try to be satirical about it too, and extraordinary. So I think that I don't think that I think that it's Steven Spielberg, the director, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that Steven Spielberg tried
he was a producer.
The producer. I don't think that the writers and the director purposely try to closely portray some real view of what the future will be. I don't think that was intended at any point on the movie, and I'm, at least the way I perceive the movie, that's how I feel. They try to be purposely funny, ironical about it, sensational,
That's a
so
really good
faxes.
point. That's
Faxes,
a really good point.
not so much.
Faxes.
Faxes went the way of the dodo quite a while back. Except in hospitals in Australia, they still use them. I don't know why.
They still have to use them here for like medical as well, don't they? Like unless you have like secure transmission and stuff like that, like you still have to have access to something like that. If I understand correctly, which is crazy. That means you need a landline too, which is also crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't have a landline on their house anymore besides Robert? Robert does have a landline.
I have a digital landline through fiber optic, so it's not a real functioning landline. It's a fiber optic phone.
I have a digital landline, but it's not. I don't use it. So okay,
because the only thing that ends up happening is Robert picks up the phone, and the first thing he says is hello, and what he hears on the other end is, has anybody contacted you about your car's warranty?
Extended warranty.
And at that point, he's just like, either I'm going to listen to all of this and see what they're going to try to sell me, or you know what, I'm trying to do a podcast here and I need to hang up.
Yeah.
But call me back later because I do want to talk about my car's extended warranty.
Now, interestingly enough, they got widescreen right.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Because the TVs were widescreen. And that didn't come in until around 2000. that's when it started to come in, because I just looked it up. But I wasn't entirely sure. But like, 10 years earlier, they admittedly, it was going to go that way because movies were widescreen, so you needed a bit more screen, or it was horrible letterboxing, and it made sense that TVs would go widescreen. But they hadn't, so they predicted that. They predicted picture-in-picture, so multiple channels on the same screen. We don't really sit there and watch 6 channels at once, including the what was that one? The Abomination channel.
The Abomination channel. No, and what was the channel for, like, having just backgrounds?
Oh yes. The 24/7 pleasant views.
Pleasant
channel.
views. But I'll tell you something. When I was a kid, I remember those big Sony's TVs that had like home theaters and everything. And my parents had one that you could put 2 screens, little screens, inside of that big TV, and it was a TV. It was not a flat screen. And you could actually watch simultaneously 2 channels in the TV.
I remember seeing those.
I got to see it in the late
that does
'90s. That actually, and it's kind of funny to think about it now and look at it, because I mean, that saturation of so many things can drive a person crazy if you think about it. It gets you anxious, you know.
Yes.
And you mentioned before, Gio, the eyeglasses that they were wearing at the dinner table,
Yes.
which was sort of probably AR.
AR.
Yes.
AR.
Which there's been several attempts, none of them hugely successful, mainly because it's so far out there that only the tech junkies got interested, and they didn't sell well enough.
I would have to agree with like Quest 3, the more affordable, because obviously I'm not going to spend $3,000 for the Apple version, but that AR is impressive to me. I have it at home. I got it because I use it for my flight simulator. It's crazy to me. I had, and Gio, you probably you can relate.
You got the 3? You got the 3?
I got the 3.
Oh man, I had to go and use it. I have the 2.
So when we had the 2, you could see the pass through.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing with the 3. I can actually walk around the entire house with that thing on, and I can see clearly. I can just
and your shins aren't endangered species.
What?
Yeah.
Your shins aren't endangered species.
If I show you my shins right now, we will have to rate this episode blood.
Gore.
It's got gore.
Gore.
like I've been working like in between all the stuff that I do metal scrapping on the side too. And imagine me banging my shin all the time with like metal beams and stuff. So I have full of cuts with bruises. But no, the pass through on the Quest 2, for example, which it's useful because you don't bang onto things, but basically it goes into like a white noise camera mode if you go out of the safe zone. It's pretty useful, but I mean, it would be awesome to be able to just keep it on, walk around, and you go full color. Because you have so many cameras that I know that the technology in the Quest 2 could do it, but probably the software is too advanced for the hardware.
I think it's a matter of hardware when it comes to the AI technology. And the reason why I'm mentioning Quest 3 is because it's affordable. There's a lot of people that are going to say, well, the Apple one is top. Yes, it is. It's top of the line. But
it costs 3,000% more. Literally, 3,000% more.
It's back
$300 to $3,000. Put another 0 in it, and you're good.
Back to the conversation we're having with the flying cars. They kind of got that right, but it's not commonly used because
you can't hover convert your roller for $39,999.95.
Yeah, right. Hey, if you think about it, and I actually thought of that and mentioned it to my friend when I was watching the movie with him, and the first thing that I thought of is the Tesla, the self-driving AI. It costs you a hefty sum. Like you had to pay about $10,000 to do the upgrade, so your car can do self-driving. If you don't have it. and it's not the same thing, but it kind of says like, hey, it's not the same thing, but we kind of do that already with vehicles if you think about it. because you can do that in self-driving, and there's other vehicles that are working on self-driving technologies too.
Yeah, there's so many self-driving right now.
Mm.
I mean,
I'm just going
not to the extent of the Tesla, but yeah.
just going back to the glasses thing for a second, because you rushed away from it before I could make this final point. But I wanted to get to it when we covered Sword Art Online back at the start of the season. But the first Sword Art Online movie, called Ordinal Scale, is basically based around augmented reality. Rather than them putting the headset on and lying down on the bed and being in a full alternate reality, they've got glasses on and they're running around the street fighting dragons that only they can see because they've got the glasses on. So it is a cool movie, and it's got a really good story too. So I highly recommend it. It's called Sword Art Online Ordinal Scale.
Oh, I want to check it out.
You should. We should do an episode.
So it kind of comes more along. Oh, we will probably. You can get that a given, and then it kind of brings more aligned to like Ready Player One. Augmented reality. Well, so it's more like Ready Player One, right?
Yeah.
Nice. Because they kind of do that. They kind of do that in the movie. Like you see people like fighting and stuff, but only they can see it.
Yeah. You could see me and Gio in the street fighting dragons.
I actually have videos of Rover on the Oculus Quest 2. I can get you those, Paul, where he's banging on the screen of the sliding door, or tripping over the carpet.
There's that face, Gio. You've got it again. Is that face?
You can see Rover like.
You don't want to put your fist through something when you're playing Beat Saber, and all of a sudden it's like, well, now I don't have a monitor. or you come down super hard and all of a sudden it's like on a desk.
Yep.
Thanks, Beat Saber. I didn't need my hands.
You smash your keyboard into a million pieces.
Oh my god. And I'll tell you something. I used to love playing Dance Dance Revolution. Loved it. So when Beat Saber came, of course, I had to go hardcore. So I didn't get Beat Saber. I got Whip Slash, which is like a shooting game dancing. And it's just so unrealistic. Like if you're not prime fit, like a super athlete, your kidney's going to be hurting in 5 minutes. And you're going to be out of breath.
Like Beat Saber, I had to make sure to get the new like rubberized face what do they call it, the facial interface or something like that they had to do. But like the original one, if you play Beat Saber in the original cotton one, you'd have to like, you took it away from your face and it's like, I'm not putting that back on. First off, it's going to be gross, and second, it's going to be cold because it's already hit the air, and as soon as I put this against my face, it's just going to feel weird.
Yep.
I thought it was some sort of bruise suppression system, because the thing's whacking on your face as you're jumping around.
Well, I think that is part of it too.
but I think that they actually fixed that with the Quest 3, because I mean I follow the technologies even though I don't have that one yet. Where they made it more compact and more mobile because of that. So and it's not so bulky, so it doesn't actually make so much weight on you.
I put the what is it, the Vive, somebody made a version for the Quest 2 or something like that, so it actually goes around and then up and over, and I can tighten it on the back, but it's actually got a top strap as well, so it doesn't actually sit there and like hang off my face.
Kind of like that. Let me see if I can grab this. I unplug it.
And Captain Chaos has actually to show us something.
I got a PSVR here, kind of like that. It's super comfortable, but it's bulkier, you know?
Yeah, see, like it does have that top piece, but I think the one that I have also has like a top elastic strap, and then I can cinch it down, and that actually does make all the difference on the weight, especially like bobbing around and doing stuff. Yeah, huge difference.
I mean, when you're moving, my experience with Oculus Quest is that you like, if you're moving, you have to tie it up very well. And because you're moving, really, you're not gonna feel it. If you tie it that well and you're sitting down, then it becomes a problem, because you're gonna start feeling the blood just stopping all over the place. Or like laying down is a problem sometimes. Like sometimes you want to lay down and just watch a movie on big TV screen. Big Screen, I think is the name of the app.
Yeah.
But it's a problem because you are 1 hour into the movie and you started feeling this thing just making weight on your face. And I mean, there's a bunch of VRs that are not very commercial that I like to. I'm always following technologies that I feel fascinated by, and there's VRs that are worth like 10 grand, but they are experimental, made by companies that are capable of great things. And I mean, I like using my Quest even for like productive things. Like I actually use a virtual desktop, and I can even actually, like, the great thing about using AR on it is it actually scans your desk, so it won't allow you to really hit your desk because it will show you the boundary there, so you know that even though you're looking at your VR hands, there's a physical desk right there. So when you touch it on the VR, you're touching your physical desk. So it makes it more comfortable for you to actually work and just have like a roll around with like 15 screens, you know?
All I want is an update to the 2 that lets me know when something that isn't normally in my proximity is now there. Like my dog wanders in
Yes.
and stuff like that, because
That's
all of a
good. It scared the
sudden,
crap out of me.
well, exactly. And the problem is they don't know any better. It's the, hey, he's doing something, kind of looks like fun. Great, but I don't want anything to happen to you. I'd really like it to like turn into that, like whatever it can do. If it is that pass-through mode that something enters in,
Yeah.
I would love that as an update just for safety of pets, or if you have like kids or anything like that that wander in and you're sitting there waving your hands all over the place,
Yeah.
you know,
I can relate to
kids
that, man. The
kid's
dog
gonna get
here
slapped in the
has the
face
bad
and you'll be
habit.
like, I swear I didn't mean it. I
Yeah.
swear. I was just
No,
playing a game.
it's true. I relate to it. The dog here, he's a sweetheart. We have a people here. But when I'm working around the house, I had to literally tell him off because, he'll be pacing behind me. And I mean, if I trip over him and I fell over him, even though he's a big dog, he's 60 pounds versus 160 pounds. If I fall full weight on it, I could harm him and even kill him. So I got to tell him, like, Bruno, get the hell out of here, because if not, he just lays down right in the middle of where you're walking back and forth.
That's why we end up having baby gates all over the place, because the
Oh
two
my
dogs will
God.
kind of wander, but there's a baby gate in front of the bedroom door, and then right now, obviously, I can close the door, but I want to keep it open. Nice fresh air, let
We need
the
to do
dogs
that
see
for
what I'm
Robert.
doing. But man,
Baby gates. So
Baby
you
gates.
don't so you don't hit the sliding door when you're playing on the VR or trip over the
Baby
carpet.
gates, aka nut crushers.
right? Yeah, especially when you try to step over them and they're at the top of the steps and your
Yeah.
foot slips.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
that's a good time. Good time.
Well, no more kids for you.
Hey, I have nieces and I love them because I get to pick them up and I give them back at the end of the weekend.
Right.
It works
Instant
out
vasectomy.
wonderful.
Oh wow. So I think we are at that point, unless you need you need to add anything else, Ray. I didn't want to cut you
Well,
off.
does anybody have any other technologies they saw there that they got right or got wrong? I mentioned the mobile phones. They did do the Pepsi. They did do the shoes. I don't know that they did the self-adjusting, self-drying jacket that has the
It's
voice.
not impossible.
No, but it's not financially viable.
Yeah, it's not.
So that's like, that would be like an air conditioned seats, but in jacket form, right? So you would basically have fans in the bottom of like an air conditioned jacket where it would keep
Yep.
you cool, which technically would be like a spacesuit, because spacesuits are air conditioned. So just on a smaller scale then. But if it's enough, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, if you're not watching YouTube, you're missing out.
Check this out a month after it comes out, man. It's just worth it. 2 hours, 44 minutes in or thereabouts. Worth it.
But I mean, other technologies that they did get close. I think I think that the flying car things we're just a step away from FFA try to regulate it, so it becomes you're gonna start seeing traffic on the air. But it's a very complex operation really, because then accidents could be a lot worse. So it's less tolerant to run trial and errors, because there's too
Yeah.
much to lose. Because it will affect terrestrial traffic, and it will cost a lot more. But I think that there's even these things. I'm not sure if it's Bentley or if it's a brand like that. I think that Bentley has it. It looks like a drone, just like this, but it's a taxi and it can carry two people, I think, or four people.
Oh, cool.
But it looks more like a helicopter to me. Uh, but
you-
I mean, they didn't really do much emphasis on cell phones if you think about the whole thing, right?
Have you seen the Aleph?
The Aleph.
Uh-huh. It's actually, I think, was it gonna go on sale next year, if I'm not mistaken? Let me see if I can find. But basically, they go ahead to sell them. The only issue with this is at this time is very, very expensive. I think this is a Californian company.
Okay.
Let me see if I am able to show without audio. I'm gonna see if I can screen share. Actually, Ray, can you?
Yep.
It might be easier for you to screen share, because I remember every time I try to screen share is horrible.
What am I screen sharing?
So look for Aleph on YouTube.
How do you
It's
spell that?
ALEF. Alpha Lima Echo Foxtrot.
And when he was looking for that, I wanted
Aleph
to.
flying car? Is that what we're
Mhm.
after?
Yes.
It's funny that you mentioned that, and we were talking about how expensive the Apple VR is. I think that it's a standard already. When new emerging technologies come in, they are not ever accessible to the public when it comes to price range until a couple of generations, when actually it becomes better. The automation becomes better. They get better processes and better materials that allows to give more access to the public to
The
those
fir-
things.
the first Tesla is an example of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Tesla started as actually what, $250,000 luxury vehicle. I
Yeah. So
remember when the roadsters were like the thing, and it was it. But when I look at the price, I was like, yeah, no, this is a Bentley. Now it's becoming an entry level car.
yeah. So if you're looking for a new car of any brand, you could actually afford a Tesla nowadays.
And that's something that I like very much about the real life Tony Stark, Elon Musk. Is that he is actively working to make sure that Teslas can be accessible to everybody, no matter your social status. I love that, because I mean, even though I love my car with nice engine or whatever, Teslas are super good and super practical, and I mean, it's amazing the amount of money that you can save in gas and time and headaches, and the safety that it has. It's top one. So it's like he makes sure to make a name for his product to give the confidence to the public to buy it. Ooh, okay. That's a flying car?
Yeah.
It's a flying car that doesn't have wings.
Exactly.
Is it a hovering car?
Yeah. Remember when we had this conversation before, Gio, and I said, mark my words, for us to have a flying car, it would have to be a kind of like a drone for it to be.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty much what it is.
Ooh. But
That,
it has tires?
yeah, just so you could there's actually videos that you could watch
Okay.
where you could actually, you drive on the road and all of a sudden you're like in a traffic jam. You can actually pick off,
Somebody honks at you and say like, okay.
you can go traffic and go to your. But the interesting thing is, if you can find it, there you go, that image. This is how it actually flies. It flies sideways, so the cabin actually rotates. So
Oh,
yeah, go ahead. That you see that it actually flies sideways.
holy crap, man.
and it's actually in the market. It's going to be, I think is there's a lot of pre-orders right now. And I believe the last I heard is they're going to start turning those into the owners next year.
You know, and the thing that I'm thinking is, what the heck is wrong with me? Because the first thing that I think is, and now you can escape the cops through narrow spaces between buildings.
That kind of stuff.
Honestly, you know that, and I hope so. I mean, I hope that law enforcement is up to date with technologies, so it's not like they're fooled by it. You know,
Oh, you go. See
you
that?
want peace and quiet and order always. Safety first.
I like that's the video I wanted to share.
That's what I envision when I think once FFA takes care of regulating how flying traffic is gonna be taken care of. That's how I envision that traffic is gonna be in the air too.
Yeah, yeah. There's going to be a lot of right now. Let's see that's what I envision, kind of like the Jetsons. I don't know.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't know how realistic that would be to today's, because I mean, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Hovering cities and houses. Hell
when-
yeah.
To safety, that's the reason why getting a pilot's license it takes you so much training. It's the training is all about safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder. I mean, there's gonna be standards and everything for you to how the altitude and everything, but that doesn't mean that you can take out automatic pilot or something. If is there gonna be a limitation, or if it's gonna have certain capacity that won't allow you to fly off into higher altitude, that can be a problem with other air traffic. You know.
Well, this
Well,
is
that's a subscription service, because if you can go higher or you can tweak it to do something, they'll make it a subscription service. So
Upgrade.
or an upgrade. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you have cars that are tuned just a little bit differently, but for $3,000, you apparently can get like 25 extra horsepower and a bunch of torque and all this other stuff. And it's just like, you want to fly higher?
That's
Well,
like
we're going to
playing
go ahead and
express
charge
lane.
you. Right.
Like
So-
an easy pass or like turnpike.
Exactly. So then you're, 500 feet in the air, and all of a sudden your subscription expires as of that
Oops.
very moment. What happens?
They literally drop you. But
nice.
Robert, do you want to? We've kind of strayed into the final section.
Oh yeah. Let's
material here. Do we want to do like final thoughts and then get on to that?
let's pause there, because we kind of strayed into our last segment. So the final question for this episode is, and this is a combination of all the times that you have watched this film. What is actually your final thought on this film? A combination of from the very first time you watched this film to all the way now. Is it a comparison? Did anything change? Basically, what I'm looking for is what impacted you the most with a collective rewatching of this film. So whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first since I'm the newer mind in here, and the one that probably I'll watch it the least. But I think that this movie brings generations together. I like the words that Paul used, because it gives you it makes you feel like it brings you home when you watch it. It definitely does.
Mhm.
And it's a movie that I think is one of those movies that stand throughout time as an original piece of film that revolutionized what filmmaking is today. And it does the job. I think that's the most important thing when you're watching a movie, is that it could be thought provoking, and this movie is very versatile if you think about it, because it has good comedy. It touches in opens a lot of big questions that we're still answering today, of what we're gonna become tomorrow. We're evolving as society into. I mean, we like it or not, even though we look at ourselves as individuals, being part of that whole means that we're gonna move forward to be part to function with a society, and it's gonna change. Things that used to be the norm 10 years ago are just antiquated today. But I think that this is a movie that you don't have to necessarily be a sci-fi lover to have a special place in your heart for it. I think that this is a movie that, I mean, I have friends that they're not sci-fi fans at all, and they still love that movie, you know. And like I said before, it's one of those few movies that has a sequel. This one has a trilogy, and each movie brings you new things and fulfills that desire for more, you know.
Awesome. Okay, so who wants to go next, or should I?
I'll,
Who's
I'll
Paul?
get I'll get my final thoughts out. So there is always something about this movie and the one before it and the one after that I can sit down and watch all three. If I have time, I'll just watch all three. And it's because to me it's a single story, slight overlap here and there, of course, on the movie changes. But you know, once the new disc is in, it just keeps going, and it just kind of continues that story. And for people that can let go of the "that's not possible," like this, it's a good movie, but like it's like just let it be, you
Take it for
know.
what it is.
Park
Exactly.
your disbelief at the door.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not watching this with you carting that around, you know? You can leave that over there. But yeah, there's just something about it. I remember seeing it when I was young, and I remember watching it with my parents, and I definitely remember, you know, getting into just all the things that the second episode had to offer, you know? And I don't know what it is, but I just keep going back to it, and would suggest I would suggest it to a lot of people to watch if they've never seen it, seeing it for their first time. Um, and honestly, I just can't say enough about it coming from the 80s and then really kind of just showing us what could have been possible or something like that. And that's that all of that invention and all of the ideation around everything. You know, one of the things that still exists out there today, and it did even before this movie, was aerodynamics on cars. Having aero and having the pieces that make things more aerodynamic is not new. They were using that in race cars when race cars were things. They used them before this movie came out. But then all of a sudden, you see these futuristic looking cars that are technically all aerodynamic. Um, you know, all the pieces that they added to them to make them look futuristic. And you look back at that and it's like, oh, that's silly, but it's not. The more aerodynamic something is, as long as it doesn't become a hindrance and create um, a new friction to overcome, basically. You know, if it can slip through the air, it's going to be better. It's going to be better for gas. It's going to be better for everything. So I don't know, just little things here and there um, that still to this day make me say, yep, that's still around, or that was something that maybe they improved it just being in this movie, or somebody saw it and you know, I need to make this a reality. So all the things that could have ever come out of this movie, along with all of the enjoyment that I've had over the years, is just fantastic. And I can't suggest this movie enough to people for their 50th viewing or their first. But you know, start with the first one. Always start with the first one.
Awesome. Ray, you want me to go next, or
Whatever you like. I can go next if you want.
okay, go ahead.
So this movie is kind of like Empire Strikes Back. It the second movie in a trilogy is always sort of like the redheaded stepchild. It's kind of considered, you know, it's not the conclusion, it's not the beginning. It's just sort of there to fill up the space in the middle and get you to the end. So it's often considered, you know, like filler or you know, just something to get you further on into the story so that you can get to the good bit, which is, you know, the climax of the whole trilogy. Not this movie. This movie is much like Empire Strikes Back. It changes the trajectory of the story. It obviously everybody wanted to see more when the DeLorean took off and flew off into the sky. Roads where we're going, we don't need roads. You know, it's one of the best lines at the end of a movie ever. And then the car takes off and you're all like, well, what happens next? So we got to find out what happened next, which is very important for the people dying to know. And of course, much like Empire Strikes Back, it changes the tone of the movie. Rather than fixing up his past, he's now fixing up his future. This is Marty. Doc Brown is doing his usual shenanigans of should I be doing this at all? It's too dangerous. But I'm a scientist and I'm a mad scientist, so I just do it anyway. You know, there's lots of spanners thrown in the works, and Marty and Doc have to sort it all out. Doc's way more involved in this one because he doesn't get shot, which is kind of handy. But you know, it shows the future, it shows the past, trying to fix the present. It's got a good sort of well-rounded storyline as it sort of loops back through what we've seen before, but they've got to try and deal with new things happening in the background and not affect the original storyline. So it's got a whole lot of bumpers that they've got to sort of avoid things, which makes for a whole lot of sort of tense moments and sort of concerns about how can we make this happen, but it wouldn't have been seen in the original movie. And I'm sure that they sat there watching the original cut of the original movie going, now, where can we put this thing? We've got to have something happen here, but it's got to be off shot. Where can it be? Oh, backstage and up above. And they would have had to go back and reshoot those scenes again from a different angle to get those shots. So you're recreating scenes from the original movie, and then you're shooting new ones. And then because the same actors in the shot twice, you've got to do it separately and then glue them together. So you got to do the editing hanky-panky mumbo-jumbo to make it all work. So it was a fair bit of work to create this, but I think they did a fantastic job. They made the story really engrossing and really sort of edge of your seat excitement. And of course, you know, it's something about Robert Zemeckis. We've covered another one of his movies just recently, Ghostbusters. Which is a fantastic movie, and this series is another fantastic show. It's got some science in it. It's lighthearted but serious enough that there's, you know, stakes. You're backing the characters. You want them to be successful. There's a character that you can hate. In this movie, it was Biff. In Ghostbusters, it was the EPA guy. So, you know, there's always somebody you can really dislike, and everybody can get behind disliking them. And it's got a whole bunch of levels of, you know, you can just take it as an entertainment movie. You can take it as an exploration of causality. You can dig down into all the little changes that you can spot, like Twin Pines, Lone Pine Mall in the first one. But it's all sort of sprinkled throughout there. They really thought hard about it and wrote it on different levels, and that's what makes it a timeless classic, because you can watch it when you're a kid and think it's just an adventure movie, and then you get older and you learn about science and causality and all these other things, and then you go back and watch it again and you go, oh, that's what that was. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those movies that sticks with you through the decades as your thinking changes and you get more out of it. So I don't think it's one of those you can skip the middle movie and just watch the start and finish of the trilogy. It is intrinsic to the story. It is really entertaining. And I think everybody should, as you said, Paul, watch all three of them if you can back to back, because it's one heck of a ride and it's really enjoyable. So give it a shot. Watch it with the family. You'll be answering all sorts of questions about causality and time paradoxes and stuff like that. So have read up beforehand, because your kids will ask these questions.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, this was a very nostalgic trip. Um, and it's
But it was only 8 years ago, Robert. It was 2015. It's not that.
well, you know, I remember, um, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but Universal back in May 2nd, 1991, they opened up Back to the Future, the ride. I was lucky enough to experience that. A shame that they had to close in 2006.
I wish I had.
There is, by the way, if you on your Oculus, there is a
Yes.
virtual video that kind of gives you the actual video you get to see on the ride, obviously minus the motion. So it's the
I
closest
think it is awesome, the VR experience, man. I did it.
exactly.
It's so awesome, man.
So the movie has a lot of things. Like it brings me back to a vacation with a family where we went to Universal and we enjoyed this ride. The movie with its topic brings me back memories of when I was 19 and thinking of the possibilities for the future. It The music brings me back to the 80s. For me specifically, is a very nostalgic movie. However, I would have to echo everyone here with their answers because this movie has a little bit for everything. Like you don't have to like sci-fi to enjoy it, and if you do like sci-fi, it's going to be a treat for your mind, especially if you are into science, because there's going to be a lot of questions. And not to say that if you are like an overthinker like I am, it's going to be pure joy, because that movie could turn out to be 4 hours because of all the pausing you have to do. But it's an enjoyable film. It's
Well, that is what happens when you and I watch a movie, Robert.
that's what I said. If you're an
I don't know if you know, Paul, but when we watched Ready Player One the first time, the
Oh,
movie is about 2 hours, right, Robert? But it took us like 6 hours to watch it.
yes, I remember.
That sounds like how movies go in my house too. Because it's
Yeah.
we'll watch it for a while and then, well, we might need some food, and
Oh no, no, no,
then
no, no.
we got to rewind it to
Robert and I just pause and just drift off into conversation in the middle of the movie, and then just okay, let's play again.
that's and that's later, because all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, now we got some food and we're chatting about what's happening, and then all of a sudden you get back into the movie, and then something else happens, like, oh, who was that actor, and you look that up, and all of a sudden all the conversations around what they've been in, and it nonstop.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2 hours becomes 6,
Yeah.
or you just restart it because you're 13 minutes in. It's like, I'm gonna go ahead and just restart the movie.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. That sounds like my house. Yep.
Yep.
So a watch a Back to the Future trilogy takes as long as extended editions of
Days.
Lord of the Rings.
Days.
What'd you do this weekend? I watched 3 movies. Really? That just didn't take a day? Oh no.
Extended
You don't
version.
know how I watch movies.
Extended version, by the way.
Oh, nice. So yeah, that is actually my final thought. This is a movie for everyone. It's nostalgic for some, but it's just an overall great story. Overall, it's amazing for the mind if you're that type of person. So I cannot recommend this enough. It's a great film. Okay, so are we ready for? Are we really ready for this segment? I haven't.
I don't know. It could be problematic.
I
Before we go there, I thought I'd just show you this.
Ka-chika, ka-chika.
Nice.
Apparently, this was in a Cars game between Cars 1 and Cars 2, and it was the voice of the car was Christopher Lee. So they got Doc Brown to voice his car.
Nice.
By the way, guys, did you know that there's a manufacturing company for DeLoreans that is based here in Florida?
I remember there was a dealership on Bonita, and they shut it down. I think they moved to Texas. But I remember passing by it every day
Yep.
on the way to work.
But they're not so fast though.
No. Okay, so here goes. I am afraid, very, very afraid.
He's
Here's,
gonna push the button.
I'm going to press the button.
He's gonna press the button.
In SciFi.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Should I?
How much science is in this thing? Stacks.
Enough.
Is all of it serious? No, not
This
really.
is just half of the
but
episode, man.
I just have to do it. Jesus Christ. Oh dear. Interesting little side story. 2014, I went to a conference. Being a scientist, you go to conferences occasionally. And at this conference, I met a guy who given a talk about trying to get superconductors to work at room temperature. And I had a bit of a chat with him, and he wasn't like an academic. He was actually like an engineer, like a more of a doer than a thinker. And I said to him, "Hey, what do you
No
reckon?"
offense to engineers.
Well, no, I mean he wasn't a pure academic. He was more of a hands-on guy who liked to build things. And I said to him, "Hey, you know that movie Back to the Future Part 2?" He said, "Yeah, it's supposed to happen in 2 years. You reckon you could have a hoverboard ready by then?" And he said to me, "If you give me enough money, I'll have you a fucking hoverboard." And I'm like, "Oh, I wish I had the money."
Confidence. The confidence.
Oh, he was convinced he could do it if he got fed enough money. But,
Sadly enough, that's how things work. Unfortunately, you know. Oh well.
But yeah, I was looking through Futurepedia, which is an interesting
Futurepedia.
little.
I'm looking that up right now.
It's the fandom pages for Back to the Future. Futurepedia, and they have a section on hoverboards, and they have a section which says actuality. And this is basically, they're doing a segment for us, so I thought I'd just read this out. On October 21st, 2014, a company called Hendo announced that they've been working on a prototype hoverboard which could actually hover approximately 1 inch off the ground. The Hendo hover uses hover technology developed by Hendo's parent company, Ars Pax, which relies on magnetic fields and specifically lined copper floors, similar to the technique used by high-speed trains to keep them from touching their tracks. On the same day as the announcement, the company launched a Kickstarter campaign to help out finishing the touches to the Hendo hoverboard, to help produce them and to create places to ride them. The first 10 backers of the campaign pledged at least $10,000 and were expected to receive one of the first production hoverboards 1 year later. On October 21st, 2015, the same date of the hoverboard chasing Back to the Future Part 2, that's when they're supposed to receive the boards. By the end of the Kickstarter campaign on December 15, 2014, the project was successfully funded with over twice the project's original $250,000 goal being pledged. On June 24, 2015, another prototype hoverboard powered by liquid nitrogen-cooled superconductors and magnets was unveiled by Lexus in Japan, the Japanese car manufacturer. The Lexus hoverboard uses magnetic levitation powered by a combination of liquid nitrogen-cooled superconductors and permanent magnets. As part of their Amazing in Motion promotional campaign, the Slide microsite featured a teaser video showing the hoverboard levitating above what appears to be a skate park. I do know that version with the copper flooring is in use in some stores, warehouses, and the pallets hover over the copper flooring, so they don't actually touch the ground. That is in use in trial. It was in use in trial bases back in the late teens, as far as I know, but I don't know where it's at the moment. I haven't been able to find any information about whether that was considered cost effective. I mean, copper got really expensive.
Yes.
So having a whole floor made out of this stuff probably
Fortune.
caused, cement's way cheaper and casters. So, I mean, people want the future, but sometimes the future is a bit too expensive. So we don't end up getting. But I still want my hoverboards and flying cars because that was so cool.
And casters work on water.
No, but neither do hoverboards, so it's okay.
Hey,
Unless you've got
power.
Power.
Power. Do you want to take one, Robert? I know you're really excited about this.
Well, it's we kind of briefly talked about the self-lacing shoes. This was done by Nikky. Who the reason why you hear me hesitating is because
it wasn't a success.
Limitless is not a success as to what it was, just a limited release. And I think also back to something that we talked in the show is the fact that the pricing, you need something to come down in price in order to make it general use. And I don't think that technology is there to lower. Well, that remains to be seen, because it could be also a way for the company to raise money. So the real truth I can't really pinpoint, but the pricing on this combination with the limited release did not allow this to become a commonplace. And
I think that the killing factor too there were, if there was a new sequel coming out, a fourth movie, that would have pushed it over the edge for being a success too.
Maybe.
Because the sneakers came out, but there's nothing new coming out about Back to the Future anymore. So that just gives you that longing feelings that bring me back home, but it didn't really ignited it. I think that if they would have done anything, even if it's just a short film or something, like a little bit more, that we would be wearing those sneakers right now. I bet anything you want on it.
Well, the thing about future technologies is there's got to be a significant upgrade to what you can do manually. Flying cars, significant upgrade. Hoverboards, significant upgrade. I don't care if anybody wants to argue me on that. I think it's a significant upgrade. Self-lacing shoes, I think, is probably, people can tie their own shoelaces or use Velcro.
I don't.
It's just probably not worth the or you can just use slip-ons. But really,
these are kind of the analog version of those, if you think about it.
But self-lacing shoes doesn't really improve the wear. It's lacing is a very small amount of time that you spend with a shoe, and if it was something
double notch,
like shoes,
so you don't have to do it again.
Yeah, exactly. But while it was a cute little gimmick and something that felt futuristic in 1989, really it wasn't much of an upgrade to a shoe. It still walked on the ground. It still covered your foot. It didn't really do much for the shoe to change the way it worked, to improve your experience. So that's why it didn't take off. I just don't think it was worth the money to make it do that.
Now,
well, then you have a company like BOA, I think it's BOA, that has that technology built into their boots, and I know snowboarding boots and stuff like that, but you twist them and it tightens the strands of metal, and they are the shoelace, so it actually starts to get closer to kind of that technology where it's not really self-tying, but you're just twisting an object to tighten it to your foot. And honestly, for things like snowboard boots or ski boots or anything else that they have their technology in, that's probably the best upgrade, because you can't really do that with snowboard or with like skiing gloves on or something like that. So if you can do that and twist it and tighten it, great. But would the self-tying thing do that? Would it automatically fluctuate as things loosen up or move or something like that? You'd have to have all that built in. And at the end of the day, is that a significant improvement?
Yeah.
I like the twisting option. I don't necessarily need the self-tying option, you know?
Now, Ray, let's talk about lasers on sharks.
That wasn't this movie.
But hey, talking about
There was,
sharks,
there was a
even though
digital
we
shark.
don't, even though we don't have that listed in here. We do have that technology already. You have holographic spatial imaging systems. That's how you see these holographic things in the sky now that people do. People started doing it with drones program, but now you see holographic imaging in outside space. You know, so I think that technology is moving forward. If you think about it,
Oh, yeah, it is, but it's still pretty damn tricky.
yeah, it is for
Not
sure.
mainstream
And
yet.
I think that about the video conferencing that we mentioned in there. In a technological way, and I think in a societal evolutionary way, I think that it cannot drastically change after COVID, when it
Yeah.
became more of the norm. I mean, there's many jobs that didn't became presential. You don't have to go to office anymore. They became fully in home, and I think that the nice thing that I did like about the movie is that it didn't hinder, like I feel it has done on real life, the social interaction with one another. You know, I think that after COVID, people don't go as much out. There's not so much family gatherings as it used to be, or friends gathering in big groups anymore. And that's something that I did like of the movie. Actually, is that in the movie that doesn't hinder at all in people going out still and hanging out in places, but like it seems like work life over there, it's just like it's becoming now that a big percentage of jobs can be done from home. You don't necessarily have to go to a place.
Yep, they certainly got that one right. And the voice activated technology as well. There was a lot of
Yes.
that in the movie, and we have Siris and Alexas and Google.
I mean, man,
Homes.
actually, when I go to Roberts, I love it because you sometimes he's telling something to Siri, and Alexa and Google are like, "Do you say something?"
He should have it set up so every time you say, "Oh shit," it flushes the toilet.
I wanted to get to a point where he asks Alexa something but calls it Siri. So Alexa tells her, "You go ask Siri." Passive aggressiveness. kind of adjusting your AI like they do on Interstellar with Tars.
Happens a lot in anime too. When we covered Luxian from
God, I love that anime. Yes.
yeah. You should read the books. It gets better. It gets
Yeah. I'm finishing the first one, so yeah, I'm slow in that one.
Are there books on Back to the Future?
Oh no, this was dating sim we covered.
No. What I'm saying, like in Back to the Future, are there books written about the story, or is just
well, there's probably novelizations of the movies, but I don't know if they went any further than that.
Yeah,
There are full comic sets. So there is like Dr. Emmett Brown, and there are a couple different volumes of different stories within like comic book style reading that you can find. I have those sets in comic book like paper form.
I like that, and I'm asking because that's the nice thing about writing formats is that usually it enriches that experience. If you want something more, that's the place to go, always.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the best platform because then it's all in your mind. There's no bounds to how you actually visualize it.
Yeah.
So you know at the end of the third movie where they take off in the time train, spoilers, but we do that all the time.
Yeah.
But so there's a comic called Back to the Future: Tales from the Time Train.
Nice.
I think I have to look
Nice.
into
I'm
that.
digging into that one.
If it's written with the same aplomb and tongue in cheek, it'll be awesome.
Oh yeah.
And now to close the section, I just don't want to miss talking about, first of all, biometric identification.
Mhm.
This is not necessarily commonplace now, but it is actually in use today. And I feel, just like you said, Ray, it needs to be, the technology needs to fix an issue.
Yeah,
And
or improve quality of life.
to
Yeah.
be able to be used in mass. So right now it has done its purpose, but not in the way that we see in the film. So the way that it needs to be used is solving an issue for companies and people that need to deal with security. But at this point, it's not an issue that that relates to your normal home life. And I hope that it stays that way, because there's always a way that our society could get worse to the point where this could become a solution. And it seems to me like it was a solution in this particular universe, uh, from the comments that we hear from the police officers. Like, this place should be shut down. They were really living in a really bad neighborhood. So this actually solves an issue, and you could see how this could solve an issue if this is the reality that you're in. However, if you're living in a place like that, most likely you don't have the money necessary to have that type of technology. So it's its own paradox right there.
I think that, and I like that you brought that part in, because Paul also mentioned about, like, you still having to have a second way to bypass that. And I think that is that because we are not still so dependable on technology, we need to rely on a manual or more analog way to still get access to those second verification processes that we have, just in case that technology fails us for X or Y. So until it doesn't become so mainstream, it won't be the norm, probably. It's an accessory, it's convenient, but there's always going to be a manual way that has been done for longer years that we're going to still try to resource to until something revolutionary is going to have to happen for that to become more mainstream, I believe.
Yeah.
Going
Adversity.
with the security thing though, with like the face ID and stuff like that for iPhones, you don't want people being able to take your phone and put it up to your face and
Yeah.
unlock your phone. So of course Apple built in the functionality to that. I think it's what you hold down the lock button and you ask, whose phone is this or something like that, and it actually will lock it so you can't use Face ID or something like that. But you also don't want that to happen with your fingerprint either. And then when it comes to things like your house or business or something like that, that's great until somebody figures out how to put their fingerprint in. Like all of a sudden, somebody opening their Netflix account or their Spotify account, and all of a sudden there's another profile there. What the hell is this thing?
Yep.
And the fact that you then have somebody that has access because they put another profile on the account that lets you into the building or the house or whatever. And the mainstream part of it does seem as though that items can get more visible, which means that more people know that it can happen, that somebody could, put another profile on an account or something like that. It does, however, make me wonder, does that also make it more secure because there are mainstream companies making people aware that this can happen and they're trying to patch holes? If there was not anything like that in place and it stays in the open source areas and not becomes mainstream, not that open source is not secure, it's just the fact that, it's available to everybody. Does that then mean that the people who are using it are, of course, going to be using it at their own risk? But does that also then mean that to be as secure as possible and to patch those holes, it does have to go mainstream? Like, then it gets into that weird point where it's just like, well, I kind of want this open source. I kind of want to be able to do my own thing with it, but it's not as secure as I'd really like it to be. But then you get it into the mainstream systems, and everything is locked down, and it's not open source anymore. You can't add things or subtract things as you want, and maybe the security is higher, but you don't have any control over the software or the hardware, or you can't fix it yourself anymore because now they're using proprietary parts or whatever. So
Yeah, I mean, don't go further. I mean that the whole point that somebody could get into your account already is defeating that sense of security that having a password or an impediment that anybody gets into should bring to you as a user. And I mean, majority here probably are iPhone users, but I mean, I always give it to Samsung, for example. To me, Samsung so far in the market has always been the most advanced hardware device. So much that well, the moment that they make their own operating system, I'm probably gonna move to Samsung. Samsung, for example, different than the Face ID, they do retinal scan. So even if you put my Samsung on my face, if I don't open my eye and have my retina written by the phone, it won't open, which is another kind of print that is unique to every single individual. So there's many levels of security. But then again, I mean, I'm not a hacker or understand about programming. There probably could be a hacking form remotely that could be even tricked. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your information that you have on a device that can still be accessed by some high level hacking. There's always that risk.
So the final mention before we close this segment is wearables. I think we are at the point where we can say wearables are very, very mainstream.
Oh yeah.
Watches, and don't go further. Yeah, Fitbits. I was gonna say, even though Nikes don't have power laces, Nikes came out maybe like 5 or 6 years, maybe 10 years ago, with a device that is Bluetooth that is integrated into your sneaker that actually works like a Fitbit and monitors your workouts and stuff like that,
the
which I
Nike
think is
Active.
pretty cool. Yeah, I
Yep.
think it's pretty cool because then you have a sneaker that is actually part of your workout equipment too.
Yeah.
And I think that is super nice. I noticed too, like things like the Apple Watches and the Fitbits have they're nice gadgets, and they are also at the same time they kind of incentivize people to be more physically active, to do activities, to work out that keeps them healthy.
Oh yeah.
Which is one of the main things that are gonna elongate your lifespan for sure.
Yeah, my watch is like my mom. When I'm working too hard sitting down, it asks me to stand up.
Relax. Yeah. Or when you're watching something that Ray and I like and you don't probably because it's too strong, it's like, hey, your heartbeat is too strong.
You get a little alarm, Robert. Your heart's about to explode. Go do something else.
Well, I tried to get Robert into Demon Slayer. He couldn't.
It appears as though you're doing a workout. Would you like to start your workout? Just watching a movie here.
It's too late. Go to sleep. Oh no, it's just a nagging wife. He just tells you to go to sleep because it's late.
Awesome. Oh my God. I was expecting this show to be this way. We're like, and the marker is 3 hours and 33. This should have been one of those films that we have on the blacklist for that specific reason.
Yeah.
But I expected it, it's one of those. It's such a great film, and there's so much to talk about. So, yep, there it goes. So this actually concludes this episode. I really want to
Great Scott! I had to get that in there.
Oh, thank you. I really want to thank Paul for being a guest, agreeing to be a guest on this episode. It was a lot of fun to have you on the show. I hope that we did not scare you, Captain Chaos, scare you enough that you can come back for another episode.
Hell yeah.
So, just in case our listeners might have missed the beginning of our episode, can you tell them a little bit more about your show and where they can find them?
Yeah.
And I'll put the barcode on screen so you can scan it too for his YouTube channel.
Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. So my YouTube channel just kind of goes over normal things in people's lives, like obscure networking, if you can call that normal or not. One of the items in there specifically, if you have a home and you don't have any way of running cables or anything for networking in your house, in your walls, you might have coax that's unused from room to room. And you can actually use that as the bridge between two locations. And you can actually use that for networking. So it's a coax to Ethernet adapter, things like that. And obviously, one of the more mainstream obscure networking items is power line adapters, where it actually can connect your network via the power cables in your walls as well. And honestly, just being able to provide a solution to people that don't have the option for Wi-Fi in certain areas of their house, or what's worse is there are people out there with houses that actually don't really allow Wi-Fi to actually permeate the walls. I remember talking to somebody specifically. He actually had a house that had Adobe walls. Nothing passed through that. He either had to bore holes in the walls, which was structurally unsound, but he already had coax. And the fact that you can have something that was made for a very odd use case, yet still so usable by enough people that it's worth it to me to share the possibilities or find a solution for those really hard to solve networking issues. And then, of course, with anything to do with music or sound or anything like that, I go over, I don't know if you can really call it a review, if something from 1948, if it's reviewable. But the fact is that when you're talking about a vacuum tube that, transmits sound through the electrons in this glass object, just the whole concept of it is just mind blowing to me, and the fact that they can all sound different. So being able to share things that I have found online or out and about, or even new things that have come out to do with vacuum tubes and all of that is just really exciting. And I hope you all come check it out. But yeah, that is what I do. 5-Port Studios, and that is on YouTube.
Awesome.
Nice.
So thank you so much for being part of this episode. I just hope that we can come back for another episode with you. So we'll definitely talk offline.
Yeah.
If need be, I'll behave next time, man.
Don't promise
No.
things you can't deliver, dude.
I am giving. It's not a promise, really. I didn't use that word.
Your mouth's writing checks your body can't cash.
I tread lightly.
No,
That's a
this
quote
was
from-
so fun. This honestly was so fun. Being able to talk about things like this, about a movie that I just absolutely love, and honestly to be able to come back and either talk about Back to the Future 3, hint hint.
Hell yes.
And the fact that you all go through so many other movies that I've not been exposed to before, or if I haven't seen them in a while. And just the thought about that, being able to talk about movies in this way, is just mind opening to me to look at them differently. So it's a great honor. Thank you so much for asking me to be a guest, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're always welcome, man.
Nice to have you on.
For all of you out there, just remember we do have a website. It is sciencefictionremnant.com. We actually post some articles there. They're 3-4 minutes long if you want to read them, and they're kind of like in the essence of the show. So we talked about how science and science fiction merged. Of course, if you want to talk to our very own Captain Chaos, because you have thoughts, why don't you come over and join our Discord? If you are watching this on this YouTube, there's going to be a QR code that you can scan, and it takes you to our server.
I'm like evil. I never sleep.
Yes, don't be surprised if it's 4 o'clock in the morning and you're talking to the very own Captain Chaos. So if you are listening to the pod, there is a link to the description. If you want to help, aside from sharing the show and liking and subscribing and following, if you still want to do more for us, we do have a Patreon. You can go into Patreon. There's a QR code on the screen right now. You can scan it, and it'll take you to our Patreon. You can help us that way. Now, we want to ask for your help really badly. Our very own Captain Chaos needs his coffee.
Yeah, I'm tired of
Zimmerman
Monster,
doesn't
man. That
sleep
sugar
here,
crash.
espresso.
No, it's Monster is good, but it gives you sugar crash. Coffee's more natural, you know.
Captain Chaos needs his coffee, so we need your help. Buy me a coffee. There is a QR code on the screen. You can scan it, and it takes you there. You can buy a very own Captain Chaos coffee, and that way you can help us out on the show. So with that, I thank everybody for making our show your favorite show. We really, really appreciate you coming and listening to us every week. For if you are new, this show comes out on the pod every Saturday at 7 a.m. Eastern. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you have to just wait about a month from the release of this show. And at 7 a.m. on that day, it comes up on YouTube. So I really, really appreciate your engagement. Believe me, we will not be here if it wasn't for you. We would not be #1 on Good Pod's chart for top 100 fiction and science fiction if it wasn't for you. So we really, really, really appreciate your support and can't wait for what we're going to bring to you on our future episode. So with that, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
All right.